We good? Quorum being present, I call our 2018 special town meeting to order. We're going to start on time tonight because of the weather. Please be seated. 13 years ago, I introduced our voluntary Pledge of Allegiance. It's our tradition now. And with that, a way to introduce Southampton's new town administrator, Ed Gibson. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and join us if you wish.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Thank you, Ed Gibson. Good evening, fellow citizens of Southampton. Welcome to our 2018 special town meeting. I'm Robert Floyd, your town moderator. Thank you for your continued support. It's an honor and a privilege to serve you. Your positive feedback encourages and is most valued by me. For full transparency and disclosure, I also serve you by being Southampton Cemetery Commissioner, Center Cemetery Superintendent, and serve on the Easthampton Media Board of Directors. Our town meeting is a business meeting of Southampton, our legislative session, called pursuant to a warrant, the official record of what will be discussed, and the only topics on which our town meeting may actually take action tonight. Warrant return, Town of Southampton. Pursuant to the within warrant, I have notified and warned the inhabitants of the town of Southampton by posting an attested copy at the Southampton Town Hall and 5 other places designated for the posting of such notices 14 days before holding said meeting. Constable Jared Hamill, date posted December 28, 2017. Posted at Town Hall, Trading Post, Pure Food, Big Y, Southampton Liquors, Stop and Shop, and the other was the library. We have 5 exits and the bathrooms are in the hallway. May we have a moment of silence now in keeping with Southampton's culture for those who have moved on ahead since we last met. Thank you. Tonight, our special town meeting is being sent out live on Channel 191. Thank you, Easthampton Media. Deputy Moderator Carl Keener, I publicly thank you for being Southampton's Deputy Moderator and assisting the town moderator. The executive branch of our town government, Select Board, Finance Committee, Treasurer, Accountant, Clerk, Administrator, have worked hard on the articles and the meeting. Their work is done. Although these members sit up front, it is our tradition. They individually do not have more of a vote tonight than any of you in our special town meeting. Existence of our Finance Committee members as an advisory group does not relieve the rest of you from thinking and asking questions for yourselves. The warrant. The articles go into a warrant that is posted at the locations I mentioned and warns the people of a legislative meeting. You have heeded the warning. I continue to host an annual pre-town meeting preview live on our town's public access channel. Open meeting law does not apply to the position of moderator, yet I do post a notice of the meeting. It works well. An investment of an hour makes our actual town meeting smoother from your perspective. All proponents of articles are invited to attend, but we discuss only procedural issues and not the merits. We take up the articles in the order they appear in the warrant. As moderator, it puts me on notice as to where to expect debate and amendments. We have handouts. The moderator is handout content neutral. Handouts we allow are considered background material and must have some relevance to a town meeting. The moderator announces a time, usually noon the day before a town meeting. In this case, it was noon today because yesterday was a holiday. They're to be delivered to the town clerk's office, even anonymously. I maintain that ignorance of the rule is no excuse, and I don't make exceptions unless in rare instances, last year being one of them. No literature is to be handed out in the town meeting room nor in hallways. Outside, okay, in a way that doesn't block the doorway. Records are retained for official town meeting business, critical Department of Revenue, Attorney General, and bond counsel. Moderator's rules, not town council's legal opinion, apply within the meeting room and while town meeting is in progress. Your moderator permits commercial TV cameras if and only if they agree to remain in the back of the room on the other side of the line on the floor or outside the building, not in the aisles, nor inside the doors. For a quorum, the essence and the necessary ingredient of our town meeting only requires the town clerk, town moderator, the warrant, and in Southampton, a quorum of 25 people in accordance with our bylaw. Duties of a moderator. My role as your town moderator is to facilitate, provide an open process that voters trust, and administer rules and guidelines in an even-handed manner, not to assure any particular outcome. I am here to ensure that those who wish to address this meeting have the opportunity and to ensure the integrity of our meeting stays as intact as possible. Both sides' need will be heard on each article. Moderator's authority over process, not outcome. The moderator leaves the outcome to the fully informed voters. Procedures used to accomplish things instead of manipulating the proceedings. I help every dedicated voter who gave his or her confidence to put me in office as I serve the town. So if your inexperience here tonight holds you back, allow me to walk you through the process tonight. Duties of voters. Your responsibility is to be the legislative body of our town government for tonight's articles. Tonight, you exercise your freedom of speech. You all have one single vote, one choice, yes or no, for each article. Speaking and participating at a town meeting is a right, but like all rights, it should not be abused nor denied. Ground rules, courtesies, guidelines. It's important to set ground rules early, then stick with them. Town meeting is a legislature subject to its own rules within the Commonwealth laws. It needs rules and is one of my duties as your moderator. Why? Simple efficiency is important so the business of the meeting can be accomplished more accurately with fewer errors and less waste of time. More importantly, the protection of the rights of individuals against illegal encroachment, unintentional or otherwise. Southampton's town meetings are conducted in accordance with Mass General laws, town bylaws, traditional customs, and practices we have followed for many years with guidance by the principle and rules of conduct in town meeting time, a handbook of parliamentary law. Organic process as our customs, traditions, and practices evolve. Town meetings work if you want it to work, not for you alone, but for the whole community. Tonight, we proceed with what we have since 1773, when town meeting named Southampton. Motions are read out loud by the Select Board. Community Preservation articles are read by the Community Preservation Chair, Virginia A. Hart. Where there is no reading historically, any voter may rise to the occasion and read a motion. Once a motion is read, and I have asked for a second, I invite a pro, then a con statement. Rights to speak. All discussions must be relevant to a motion under an article in a warrant and must be within the scope of each article before us. The merits or lack thereof of the motion. Please allow everyone an opportunity to be heard before you request to be heard a second time on an article. Remarks, concise, to the point. I will allow anyone who previously spoke to address the meeting again with a new point or rebuttal. No repetition. Before you vote yes or no, you individually are free to question, to amend, and to table any motion. That is, to legislate, all in a civilized way. No comments of a personal nature, no naming of names are to be made. There is never an occasion for one speaker to address another in the second person, and this will not be permitted. Cross-examinations are out of order. Rude behavior, especially shouting, bullying, lecturing, and personal attacks will not be tolerated. Anyone unwilling to comply with these rules will be removed after their third warning. So let this be our first warning. Ready to contribute something new, please approach the microphone up front and stand in line to be recognized in turn by the moderator. First come, first serve. Address the moderator, state your name and address clearly. Please direct your opinions, questions, answers, and address all remarks to me, your town moderator. And do not speak directly to other voters. This is meant to prevent lecturing, bullying, intimidation, and cross-examination. No salesmanship, no theatrics, no body language, only content, please. Thank you. The conduct of the town meeting is the town moderator's responsibility. I will only recognize speakers standing at the microphone unless there is a point of order, at which point you can call it out from where you sit. I will only recognize the motion to move the question from someone who is standing at the microphone and recognize in due order. Please respect you cannot speak and then try to move the question. Those seated up front may remain seated and use their table's microphone to answer your questions. Plan tonight is for you to speak no more than 5 minutes at a time. Experience demonstrates well our minds are rarely changed after the first 5 minutes of a speech, and no more than twice on any article, except to correct an error, answer a question. Our pre-appointed counters, when needed, will count a section as a pair, then compare numbers. When they do not agree, count resumes for a complete and accurate count to be announced out loud so all can hear. Tonight's meeting will either be adjourned to a time certain or will be dissolved. Our town meeting goes to 10 o'clock and may continue another evening. I have reserved the next 3 evenings in my calendar to be at your service. To move the order of the articles, if there is a clearly stated and compelling reason to move an article to an earlier position for consideration, now's the time. I will ask if there is an objection, and if there is an objection voiced, we will then await a motion and see if it secures the vote required. Any reasons to move? Hearing none. Outside speakers, it is Southampton's custom to vet somebody new to address you. I will read the names. Ed J. Gibson, our town administrator. Ms. Deborah Baronski, Western Mass Regional Director, Mass Office of Business Development. Without objection, those non-voters with an interest or expertise will be permitted to speak in this and future town meetings. Welcome aboard. Hearing no objections, we will proceed. Thank you. And I'm almost done. Simply because someone states something, it does not make it true. The majority leaning towards approving or denying does not make it right by itself. Listen courteously, then vote exactly as you think right. Thank you all for your patience in respecting everyone tonight. These guidelines will assist us in a more efficient meeting. May I have the vote? He's already been vetted. Yep. Thank you. Good point. May I have a motion for Article 1, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to amend Article 1, Section 1 of the Southampton bylaws as set forth in Article 1 of the warrant for the January 16, 2018 special town meeting.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who will speak on this? Pull the front down.
Mr. Moderator,
Name and address.
Janine Domina, 130 Strong Road. So, a little bit of history to this. Prior to 2007, our bylaws stated that the annual town election be held on the first Monday in May, and the annual town meeting held on the first Saturday in June. Then in 2007, those bylaws were amended to read that the annual town election continued to be held on the first Monday in May.
It's a little closer, Ginny, just like
And-
ice cream cone.
And the annual town meeting held the third Tuesday in May. So this article, we would like to, if adopted, the annual town meeting would be 2 weeks prior to the annual town election, so that the officials that worked on a lot of the articles and everything, they would be able to explain their work.
Thank you. Do we have anybody against this motion? Anybody else would like to speak? Okay, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion for Article 1, please signify by saying aye. Motion, for those opposed to motion for Article 1, please signify by saying nay. It passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for Article 2, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to amend Article 17 of the town bylaws as set forth in Article 2 of the warrant for the January 16th, 2018 special town meeting.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this?
Yes, Janet Kane, 83 Glendale Road, Chair for the Council on Aging. In the Massachusetts Council on Aging Guide, the COA board members, for COA board members, which is published in August of 2017 and was approved by Governor Baker, it states that COA directors are hired by and ultimately responsible to the appointing authority, typically the chair of the select board or mayor, the town or city manager or administrator, or very rarely the COA itself. The Southampton Council on Aging board members are appointed by the select board, not elected officials. We have voted to follow these guidelines presented in this document and have the day-to-day responsibilities provided by someone who is located at Town Hall, preferably the town administrator, through the request of the select board. The COA board is an advisory board. We will continue to set and review policies and advocate for the senior center through the municipal budgeting process. The guide also states that the COA board becoming involved in the day-to-day function operations is neither their role or their responsibility.
Thank you. Is there anyone in opposition to the motion for this article? Is there anybody who would like to speak for this article? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 2, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion for Article 2 passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for Article 3, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to amend Article 2 of the town bylaws as set forth in Article 3 of the town warrant for the January 16th, 2018 special town meeting.
Second.
No, I have to ask for a second. Does everyone have the article? We're not reading the whole article, knowing that you have it, or the motion rather. And if you don't, there's copies in the back. May I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who will speak on this?
Good evening, Michael Rosenberg, 144 East Street, Chair of the Finance Committee. Article 3 amends our bylaw. Our bylaw prior did not permit us to serve on appointed ad hoc committees.
Michael, just like an ice cream cone, get real close.
These would be committees appointed by the select board. So if you were doing a public safety building complex committee, a study committee for something going on in town, we weren't allowed to participate on that. We were also not allowed to participate on the community preservation, the PPPB, groups that we had been historically participating on. So this article allows us to participate in those. It does not allow us to run for multiple different offices and serve multiple positions. The intent of it is to allow the select board to appoint us as voting or non-voting members of certain ad hoc committees. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in opposition to this motion? Anybody else would like to speak on it? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 3, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion passes by majority. May I hear a motion for Article 4, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to amend the town bylaw to establish a process for creating the annual operating budget by adding Article 43 as set forth in Article 4 of the warrant for the January 16th, 2018 special town meeting.
Before I ask for a second, does everybody have that sheet of paper that starts out with Article 4? This is the recommendation by Copeland Page, the town attorney. And so actually, this is the body of the bylaw that's proposed. May I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this, please? Charlie?
Mr.
Can you
Moderator.
get up, Charlie?
Pardon?
At the
At that I can't use this.
That's for answering questions up front.
Mr. Moderator and fellow residents, basically what happened is when we drafted these articles, it went to town council. Town council came back to us at the 11th hour and said that there were some legal concerns. So that's why this was modified as it is.
Thank you. Is anybody willing to speak in opposition of this motion? Anybody have any comments? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 4, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion passes unanimously for Article 4. May I hear a motion for Article 5, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move to pass over Article 5, Woodmar Lane. Oh, I'm sorry, Your Honor.
That's 6 we're going to do.
Yeah.
And for those, when we do, quote unquote, pass over, we're going to use the language, take no action. Pass over can insinuate. We'll be looking at this in an hour or so. So let's hear a motion for Article 5.
I move that the town vote pursuant of Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 110A, to adopt Saturday closing procedures process as set forth in Article 5 of the warrant for the January 16, 2018 special town meeting.
Thank you. Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this?
Mr. Moderator, Janine Domino, 130 Strong Road. I attended a training a few
A little
months.
closer, Jane, just.
I attended a training a few months ago, and a representative of the State Elections Division suggested that clerks bring this article before the voters. It pertains mostly to registration and voting deadlines. Sometimes we use the dispatchers after hours, which is very helpful, but there are other times when we have to keep the office open to meet specific election deadlines. If the town passes this Mass General Law, then Saturdays could be treated as a Sunday, and the deadline would be extended to the next business day.
Thank you. Is there anybody who wants to speak in opposition of this article? Anybody want to speak for it? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 5, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion for Article 5 passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for Article 6, please?
Mr. Moderator, I make a motion that we pass over Article 6.
Take no action?
and
Okay,
take
do
no
I hear a
action.
second?
Second.
Do we want a brief explanation? It's a question. You can answer it from there. It's my question to you.
Jim Labrie, 66 Gun Road. The planning board voted to accept the road under a few conditions, some inspections that were to be performed prior to the special town meeting, and those were not complete, so they're going to move it to May.
Thank you. Anyone who wants to speak in opposition of this? Seeing none, we're going to vote. All those in favor of taking no action on Article 6, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Take no action passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for Article 7, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to change the zoning of 155 Middle Road from residential village to commercial village.
And let that be a hint. Anybody has any devices, please put them on vibrate if you have to, but please turn them off. Okay.
You can ask for a second.
Thank you. I'll do it too. Okay, let's resume, please. The motion for Article 7. No, we have a second? Where are
I'll
we?
second it.
Oh, great. We're good. Who would like to speak on it? Who would like to speak in favor of it? And this needs a 2/3 majority.
Jim Labrie, 66 Gun Road. Everybody remembers Saller's Package Store down on Middle Road, just prior to Pequot. The package store has been there for as long as I can remember, and it was there prior to the zoning of the town. The package store has since ceased operation for more than 2 years, and when it stops operation for more than 2 years, it reverts back to the zoning that was passed in this town. So since that happened, the new owners were trying to run a little business in this facility, and they're unable to do that because now it is residential. So they went to the ZBA, and the ZBA says we cannot give you a special permit. It is not allowed. It's now residential. And this is really the only avenue left prior to tearing the building down, and I don't even know if they can build because the residential lot is much smaller than, the commercial lot is much smaller than the residential. So when it goes to residential, they may not meet all the requirements to build a house. So this is a predicament these people are in. So they approached the planning board. The planning board held a public hearing and voted to put it forward to the town to see if they wanted to change the zoning or leave it the way it is.
Thank you. Who would like to speak in opposition?
Not necessarily in opposition. I just want to make a couple of points.
Name and address.
Gary Swanson, 72A East Street. There's a reason why non-conforming use property reverts back, to the original zoning when there is no further use of this property. And that is simply to stop the non-conformity. There's a reason why you zone certain areas residential, and that is you want the properties to be used consistent with residences. The problem I've got with spot zoning, and that's basically what this is it opens up it's a can of worms. It starts setting a precedent for whoever wants, for whatever reason, to set up a particular type of business or another activity which is inconsistent with the zoning. My suggestion is that we not approve this simply because there has been no activity on the site, and I think it just as well should remain residential. The other thing is that the planning board is supposed to hold a hearing and prepare a report for our meeting and make a recommendation to our meeting regarding their recommendation on this thing. And I haven't heard such a report. I would appreciate it if the planning board, the chairman, or whoever would like to represent the planning board would come forth and give us a recommendation and why they decided to go this route.
Thank you. Anybody from the planning board like to respond? That mic or this mic? That mic, because you're answering a question. Thank you.
When this was put before the planning board, we had some discussion on it, and because of the size of the lot, when it reverts back to residential, it appears they're not going to be able to build a house on this lot because now it's too small. So we felt that maybe we should put this forward to the town meeting and let the townspeople vote on it to whether they wanted to switch this parcel, which it has been. I know it's grandfathered, but then that ended when it ceased operation for a 2-year period. So we decided to put it forward. That's the only other option I see these owners having. I know they were shot down at the ZBA because they read the law and they said it's just, we can't allow a business to operate in a residential area, so we can't even allow it under a special permit or a variance. So the planning board was the last stop, so we just put it forward to the townspeople.
Thank you. That answer your question? A yes or no is good because there's somebody waiting to speak.
It answers part of the question, but it still leaves the question outstanding as to whether or not a home could be built on that property, and the zoning enforcement officer is the person who would give us a ruling on that.
Thank you. Sir?
Yes, my name is Ken Boucher, 95 Pequot Road. Just for my information, if you just give me a brief overview of what's meant by commercial village, what's involved, what's allowed, what isn't allowed.
Okay.
Is that possible?
Yes. Thank you, Jim.
I don't have that with me. I can't answer that question right now.
Okay. Secondly, do you know what type of business they want to put in there in order to change this?
He wants to have a little woodworking shop in the back and sell his products in the front.
Okay. The question I have, if it's too small for residents, isn't it too small for business?
No, the business, when you have a commercial village, you only need 120 feet and 25,000 square feet. And if you go to residential, I can't recite that, but it's bigger. The lot size is bigger for residential.
Interpreting, you can have a smaller entity than a house or a business.
Okay. Again, the definition of commercial village. Again, you don't have that particular information. How are we going to? I guess I can't put a vote to this if I can't understand what's meant by that term.
That's a fair assessment. Is there anybody in the audience that can give us a definition of commercial village? We have somebody.
I can get the book here.
That's a fair question. It deserves an answer. We're getting it for you. Teamwork. There was a death in the family. I was approached to see if a paralegal could speak on the behalf of the family. non-voter. I said stay with the funeral for the wake this evening, and that's why they're not here.
It's quite involved. I can go through this. It's several pages, and I have to find
Give
out
a
everywhere
first
that it's
sentence,
allowed.
second sentence, a brief.
Let me see here. Use regulations. Of course, agriculture, farm products, that kind of items. Then it goes down to retail services in commercial village, retail establishments selling principally convenience goods, the maximum floor space of 5,000. It goes on there. Then there's a series of things that are allowed with a special permit, so they'd have to go to the ZBA and get a special permit for that. I'm just going by the things that are straight up permitted. A bank, professional business, parking lot, bus terminal, let's see here. You could do a home occupation, professional office. You could have an accessory building, swimming pool, or other structures subject to this provision. There's a lot more.
That give you a better idea?
Yes, sir. But
Thank you.
does this say there's no manufacturing to be done there?
No, manufacturing is industrial.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. Anybody else would like to speak?
I have a question also. Jim Palermo, 68 Glendale Road. Would there be any restriction on to what purpose that property could be used? In other words, your definition gave a wide variety of different types of operations that would occur under a, just a general classification of that nature. But would there be any limitations on, for example, what would constitute a professional office, or could it be just for the specific purpose that these current landowners want, i.e. to operate a woodworking shop?
If the zoning is changed to commercial village, it would be entitled to all the commercial village rights. No longer entitled to any residential rights.
So, I mean, there'd be no restriction on the type of retail business?
Just governed under the bylaw. Anything under commercial village would be allowed there.
I feel very sorry for the landowners, but I have concern, for example, later on we're going to be discussing, for example, marijuana shops. In a residential area, would this be a good or permitted purpose to have a marijuana shop in a residential area? So I have some concerns about it. I think I want to know more before I'd vote on it.
Thank you.
Maureen Groden, 8 Shore Lane. I'm not speaking for or against it. I just wanted to say, though, that this is a catch-22 situation for the landowner. The landowner had a very unfortunate circumstance that prevented her to do anything for a period of time. And so that's why this landowner is in the situation that she's in that because of inactivity, the property resorted back to residential. And now she can't build a house on it. And so that's the circumstance. I just wanted to make sure people are aware of that.
Thank you.
Dan Pellegrini, member of the Finance Committee, Crooked Ledge Road. Not for or against, just want to put a little color behind why the Finance Committee voted for this. Because everything we heard here, it could be non-conforming and could lead to someone just walking away from it and not paying property tax on it and leaving a liability. So strictly from a financial standpoint, we're much better served having some revenue coming out of that, whether it be for a business or a house, but it doesn't look like they'd have a house. So chances are, we vote no on this, they walk away, they don't even pay property tax, and we have another vacant lot. So we've got to think about that.
Thank you. Anybody else? We're going to vote. It's 2/3. Take a voice vote, see how we go. All those in favor of the motion under this article, Article 7, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. I need the counters, please. The counters are going to start at the front. We've tweaked our approach, and they're going to go backwards. So take your voting card, raise it high, keep it up. So these are the ayes. Keep them up. In 20 years, we're going to have a little drone that will go by and count all the cards for us. Until then, no. $54. Lower your hands.
$43.
43. All those opposed, please signify raising your voting cards.
$5.
5. Oh, could you raise your hands in this section? I think is that it, the whole section? On the left here, read for the nays. Thank you. $11. 97 to 16, doing a quick math, it passes the 2/3 required. May I hear a motion for Article 8, please?
Mr. Moderator, I'd make a motion that we take no action on Article 8.
Okay. Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, and an explanation from your seat.
Town council reviewed this, and the way this article is written, there's a error. It basically implies, if we have voted to adopt this, that it would be forbidden to have this activity throughout the town. I did not think that was the intent. Town council didn't think that was the intent. and that's why we're tabling it, or taking no action, excuse me.
Okay, anybody would speak in opposition of taking no action? Anybody else will vote to take no action on Article 8. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion to take no action passes unanimously. Mayor, a motion for Article 9, please.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to adopt the moratorium on marijuana establishments as set forth in Article 9 of the warrant for the January 16, 2018 special town meeting.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Who would like to speak on this, please?
Jim Labrie, 66 Gun Road, Southampton. The planning board voted to put this forward. We held a public hearing to have a moratorium on marijuana sales in town use. We wanted time to generate a bylaw so we can control it in town. We didn't feel that we had enough time to generate the bylaw for today, so we really would like to have time to generate it for I think it's going to be May. I don't know if we change it to June or not, our town meeting. If this does not pass, I believe on April 1st, anybody can apply for a permit to sell, use, grow, whatever, anywhere in town, and we thought that was probably not a good idea. We wanted to control where in town and how many in town, and so we wanted time to generate that. So that's why we're looking for the moratorium, to give us time to put the bylaw together. And of course, it'll be public hearings, and everybody will have their input if this passes.
Thank you. Is there anybody who would like to speak in opposition for the motion under this article?
Dan Pellegrini, member of the Finance Committee. Speaking from a financial standpoint, morally...
Closer, yeah, great.
Morally, that ship's already sailed. It is legal in the state of Massachusetts. That was voted on last year. So it really comes down to, do we want any of the revenues from this? My understanding is Easthampton's already approved 12 permits. Westfield's already approving them. So at the end of the day, you're not going to stop anyone from doing it. You're just going to stop revenues coming from town. And you got to look at where we're getting our revenues from. It's somewhere in the 90-95% is coming from you guys, taxpayers. We've got to figure a way to bring businesses into this town to offset the growth and some of the infrastructure that we need. So again, my concern on punting it down the road for 12 months is the ship's already going to be gone on that. And then we're gonna bat it around for another 4 or 5 months, and something will come out 2 years from now, 2.5 years from now. Prime opportunity for us to capture some tax, and understand in this, there is a state and a local tax. There is a tax that goes to this town. So if people from this town go to Easthampton and Westfield to buy it, they will not get the taxes. And at the end of the day, we've already got laws on retail. We've already got laws on food establishment. We've already got laws on all that. We've already got zoning for it. So again, at the end of the day, I feel we're just stifling economic growth in this town.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak?
Jonathan Labrie, 35 Valley Road. I don't think there's a tax high enough to make it worthwhile to sell marijuana in this town, or to use it, whatever. I don't think the moratorium goes far enough. I think we should ban it completely. I coach high school basketball for a lot of years. I see a lot of kids go through a lot of trouble. We had one die in the last year from opioid overdose. This young gentleman started off with marijuana.
That's hearsay.
Very possible. So I recommend voting for the moratorium, or furthermore, voting for a total ban.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak?
Gary Swanson, 72A East Street. Mr. Moderator, this moratorium is simply, as Mr. Labrie explained, it simply gives us an opportunity to get our act together and exercise some control as to where and how this activity takes place. It is not an attempt to reverse an action that was taken statewide to allow the activity in general. All it is to keep people from setting up and selling gummy bears next to the Norris School.
Thank you.
Special gummy bears.
Anybody else would like to speak? Just step right up.
I was in line, but Mr. Swanson.
You're there now.
Sorry.
And let
Tiffany
us know who you are and where you
42
live.
Coleman Road. My comments were summarized already, so I won't repeat them. Just
Okay.
that I was just going to clarify that it's a temporary moratorium just to allow the regulations to be drafted.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak on this? Don't wait for me to ask. Get down to the microphone. Stand in line.
Kathy Labrie, 66 Gun Road. If we're talking about, at the end of the day, where we're going to get revenue for our town, we have to, as townspeople, decide where we'd like the revenue to come from. There's many options for us. We could open up our landfill once again and have many communities drop all their garbage in Southampton, and we could collect a ton of money that way. That's how Granby, Massachusetts funded their public safety complex. But at the end of the day, we have to decide, is marijuana shops throughout the town the way we want to collect revenue?
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak?
I'm not going to speak for or against. I'd like to ask a
Name
question.
and address, please.
Jean-Pierre Crevier, 39 Crooked Ledge Road. The town voted in the state election. How do we vote in this town? Did the people vote in favor of the marijuana or against? They voted heavily in favor, from what I understood. That means the people in this town want it. You know, now maybe the people that didn't come and vote might be here tonight saying that they don't want it. Now I don't know who it is, you know, who they are, or what their feelings are about it, and why they're here tonight. I just thought that would be good to know how the town voted. I would also like to say that I don't like to hear control. We got enough controls already. Regulations are the reasonable regulations, right? But I've heard too much of that control. When I was on the board, people wanted controlling this, control that guy. You know, we aren't going to control the majority of the people in this town by trying to control something they voted for. We're never going to get the support of the people in the town if we do that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, we're going to vote. I'll take a vote because that's what I do. All in favor of the motion under Article 9, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Counters, please. Lift up all those ayes, lift up your yellow voting cards and hold them high, please. They can put theirs down? You put yours down.
38.
38.
$51.
51. All those opposed to the motion, please signify by raising your cards.
$18.
18.
12.
12. We're all done counting? 60 to 89, or 89 to 60, it meets the 2/3. May I have a motion for Article 10, please?
Mr.
What did I say? 30. Yeah. There's, okay, true confessions. There's a way to quickly determine to 2/3, and it's not by a calculator. You take the number of yeses, you take the number of noes, you multiply the number of noes by 2. If that sum is less than or equal the yeses, it passes. And in this case, I read out the noes times 2. So that's why I have the counters say the numbers so we all are on the same page. But thank you for, so it does pass. Motion for Article 10, please.
Mr. Moderator, Bob Markle, former interim town administrator.
Welcome back.
At the 197 8th Street, Charlestown. I move that the town vote to adopt the tax increment financing agreement between J&E Precision Tool Company and the town of Southampton. By way of explanation, this proposal involves a business that is owned by a member of the Board of Selectmen and where another member of the Board of Selectmen is in a butter. We referred, yes?
We don't have a motion
I'm
yet.
sorry.
I was distracted with my math. So may I have a motion on Article 10, please?
I did make the motion.
Oh, you did?
Yes. Unseconded, though.
Who seconded?
Are you looking for a second?
Yeah.
I'll second it.
All right. Motion made and seconded.
Thank you.
We're good.
We referred this matter to town council to see what the correct and ethical course would be to address the proposal. Town council responded that because there are only 4 members of the Board of Selectmen, 2 of whom have potential conflicts, that the town administrator should work this agreement. Meet with the Board of Assessors, take a look at the wording, and come up with a proposal to put before town meeting. Tax increment financing is a program that's more than 2 decades old in Massachusetts. It is an incentive by the Commonwealth for the development of new manufacturing facilities. Obviously, manufacturing is that part of our economy that has declined significantly since the Second World War. And so, more than 2 decades ago, the Commonwealth created this program enabling cities and towns to provide a tax incentive to expansion or new construction of manufacturing facilities. That is what this proposal does. J&E proposes to construct a 7,200 square foot building adjacent to their existing 45,000 square foot facility at 115 Valley Road. The existing facility will continue to pay the current level of taxes, $31,000. The new facility is estimated to cost $600,000, and that the taxes on the new facility Actually, we can't assess it until it's completed, the building's completed, but the taxes will be approximately $10,000. The way the proposal works is that if the town meeting votes for this, the new taxes of $10,000 would be stair-stepped over a period of 5 years, so that in the first year following construction, the owner would pay $2,000, next year $4,000, next year $6,000, next year $8,000, and in the 5th year, the full taxation of $10,000 would apply. In addition to the current workforce of 69, the owner pledges that they will hire 15 to 20 new employees as part of the agreement. They will also provide an audit for the town annually so that the town can be assured that the commitment to hire additional workers will be carried out. Also, the owner is making a commitment to hire residents from Western Massachusetts with a preference for those from the town of Southampton. That's the proposal, copies of which were distributed at the desk when you came in. It would stair-step taxes over a period of 5 years. In addition to this incentive, the state Massachusetts Office of Business Development also has stepped in, and they are also trying to incentivize, or going to incentivize, this new construction program. And the director is here. I don't know if she wants to comment on what MOBD will be doing.
We're going to have somebody speak in opposition first, then we'll have her
okay.
come.
That's the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone want to speak in opposition?
Michael Rosenberg, 144 East Street, Finance Committee. The Finance Committee voted to not recommend the TIF agreement. A few of the outlined reasons why. The town has no formal policy in place. We felt it important for the town to have a TIF policy before implementing one. Especially with the known conflicts on the board, we felt it was good to have a good structure before we move forward with this. This would be a tax break for a successful business to expand. TIFs are used a lot in sort of post-manufacturing mill cities where you have large vacant buildings that need an injection to help drive some of the economic growth there. They use those mills as little incubators. The towns give them TIF agreements. This is a successful business expanding. This is not a business that necessarily needs the help to grow their business. It would be helpful. I'm sure everyone would love a tax break. The third item here, so the Finance Committee did originally bring up the one of the conflicts of interest, addressed it to the Select Board, brought it to their attention, recommended legal counsel, because it appeared they did intend to move forward with some of this. There was an ad hoc committee created to be led by the town administrator. The committee would include the 2 remaining Select Board members, I think the town accountant along with the assessor or the Board of Assessors. They were to meet, weigh in on the TIF, and to sort of come with a recommendation and a review. To my knowledge, that entire ad hoc committee has not met at a whole yet, which means the committee did not review in a whole to review did not meet as a whole to review the TIF. And in regards to the economic impacts, yes, it may employ 15 to 20 individuals, and they may live in Southampton, but that does not necessarily mean that there are increases in property taxes. They could live in houses that are already being taxed and the taxes are being paid on. So, maybe you get the meals tax from the lunches and from some of the other purchases in town. But the 15 to 20 it's kind of an arbitrary number, because if the workers are unskilled in the town for those positions, the company is going to hire outside of the town. So those were our reasons for not recommending.
Thank you. Who's next?
John Martin, 106 Clark Street.
Just wanted to bring up a couple things. The committee that was just spoken about did meet in its entirely, met 3 times. At the last Board of Assessors meeting, the Board of Assessors met and approved this TIF agreement. That was at their last meeting. And also, this is a new building on a separate piece of land, and this is not a guarantee that this building is going to be built. So instead of looking at we're going to lose a few dollars for the first 5 years, we want to look at a revenue enhancement area where there's $50,000 on the line. If we step it in 5 years, they're going to get a break of $20,000 total over 5 years. We're going to get revenue of $30,000 over those same 5 years that right now isn't guaranteed. If they don't build the building, we don't get the jobs, and we don't get the taxes. So instead of looking at the negative side, we want to look at the positive side and get that additional revenue in, rather than marijuana revenue. I think this is a better way to get revenue. And this TIF agreement is going to be a model for going forward as we present it to other businesses. It's not just for depressed businesses. It's to improve businesses in the town, get more jobs, and yes, it's a successful business, but why penalize a successful business when they're trying to help the town? Makes no sense to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Deborah Baronsky. I live in East Longmeadow. I am the Regional Director for the Massachusetts Office of Business Development. I work with 200 towns from Worcester West, implementing these kinds of programs as well as state incentives. You did a great job talking about the TIF program, so I want to applaud you. The state of Massachusetts offers incentives to businesses to encourage them to expand and maintain their residents, their businesses in the Commonwealth. This is an incentive. It is not a tax break, as was already explained. This company will continue to pay the taxes it has always paid. You are simply forgiving the increase all at once and just incrementally increasing it over a period of time. So this is new revenue for the town. The town is agreeing to take less revenue up front to encourage and incentivize this company to indeed build that building, hire those people. If this company chose to go to Westfield and build that building, then we would have nothing. I would like also to say that not only are there local tax incentives called TIFs, but there are incentives called STAs, STAs, and that's a special tax assessment. Those are the assessments that most mill towns offer, and that is forgiving all taxes for up to 20 years. So most mill towns will do an STA, forgiving all taxes to encourage people to take over old mill buildings. TIFs are very common throughout the entire Commonwealth. Finally, the Commonwealth itself has applauded this company for its amazing existence, its existence here in this town, and its proposal to expand, and its employee encouragement. They actually were awarded an assessment which forgives future income tax because they're so pleased with what this company is doing. It's an incentive to encourage manufacturers to stay and grow in the Commonwealth. And I'm happy to answer any questions about how that works. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Flip a coin.
Ed Gwinner, Golden Circle. A few months ago, I attended the ZBA meeting, and I spoke in favor of the addition that the J&E tool wants to put on. And the board unanimously agreed with me that it should go forward. There's not much of an expense to the town. I don't think the fire department goes to J&E tool very often. I don't think the police department goes there very often. I think it's a windfall for the schools, for the town itself. Years ago, the Big Y wanted to build in Easthampton, Mass. And Easthampton did not want it. They would have gotten revenue from the Big Y. Instead, they got a church with no revenue. We've got the Big Y. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next?
I'm just going to give a few things to think about. One, the estimated value is $600,000. So based on that, that's a $20,000 tax break that we would be giving back to them. So again, what are we getting as a town for that $20,000? Would be the first question I have. Second to that, if that building comes in at 800, 900, a million, that number's a lot bigger. And then the last thing I would put out there is I do agree with what Red is saying, but this is an expansion. It's not a net new building. It's a lot more to go to another town and take a business and expand it. So the reality of leaving this town is probably not there. And then, actually I lied. One last thing. I keep hearing the state saying this is a program they put out. What are they giving? What are they just spending our money? Is that really what the state does, is put these programs out to go spend our money? Because I haven't heard anything that the state is giving. All I'm hearing is local taxes. And again, guys, no one wants marijuana in town. That's fine. But you know what? We'll sell booze.
Merits or lack thereof.
You're right.
I thought
You're
you were
right.
gonna
So
stop.
again,
I reeled you
the
in.
point I'm getting at
You're
is we
done.
need some revenue.
Thank you.
So to answer the question, the state, the Commonwealth awarded over $100,000 in forgiveness of future income tax payments to this company in recognition of the great economic development work that they're doing. More than $100,000 was awarded by the Commonwealth in forgiveness.
Thank you. And everybody's facing not the front. Thank you, sir.
Gary Swanson, 72A East Street. Just a quick remark. Originally, I was going to ask a number of questions of the assessors and so forth. Apparently, the assessors have already voted in favor of this. I want to go down on record personally as a former assessor in the town. I'm familiar with TIFs and these other, arrangements that can be made to encourage businesses in town. We have tried for decades to bring business into the community to broaden our tax base. Frankly, we should continue to do, whatever is necessary, within reason, to try to continue to bring people in, good businesses. This is a quality business. You've already heard about the various, awards, and, this is a very excellent business. It should be recognized as such. Frankly, they should be applauded, and I'm all in favor of giving them this minor incentive program.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak, or are we ready to vote?
Jim Labrie, 66 Gun Road, president of J&E. Now, we've been in town for 38 years, going on 39, and I hear a lot of people talking. Bring businesses into this town. We need the tax base. We need the revenue. It's not easy to build in this town. In this new building that we're proposing, there's no water available because of the height of the building, because they can't pump the water up that high. So there's no water available, there's no sewer, and there's no gas. So there's no utilities. So we're building a building where we have to put a septic, a well, and our other building we have 4 1,000-gallon propane tanks under to heat it. It's very expensive. Propane's a lot more expensive than natural gas. So it's not an easy town. It's not welcoming to bring businesses to this town because we don't have the infrastructure, which we should do someday, but we don't have it right now. So we're trying to move forward. We're trying to improve. So this is why we're putting this forward to the town, and I would ask you for your support.
Thank you. No applause, please.
One last thing, and I do agree. I mean, we need more business in this town. I guess I'm representing some other business owners in town that have come to me and felt a pinch, and in particular in the building industry. There's no breaks cut for builders in town. There's no breaks for other businesses. So again, I think back to Mike's point, it's put a plan together with economic growth and how we attack it, and it just really seemed on the surface that there wasn't incentives for other businesses and other business owners in town.
Thank you. You've spoken twice already.
That's okay, but there are incentives for all business.
I will like to have everybody abide by this, otherwise we'll be shoveling snow when we leave here tonight.
I think we will anyways, but John Martin, 106 Clark Street. One of the prior speakers brought up that
Yeah, I got a ice cream cone,
ice cream
John.
cone? Okay. One of the prior speakers said, well, $600,000 is an estimate. It could go up to $1 million, could go up to $1.2 million. But understand, they're getting a tax incentive over 5 years on average of 40%. So if it doubles, they're getting a tax advantage of 40% on that total value. We're getting 60% of that additional revenue. So the higher it goes up, the better we do. So hopefully it costs them $2 million a bill, because that's revenue for us, right? I just wanted to make that point clear. Just because it goes up is not a bad thing.
Seeing nobody else, we're going to vote Article 10. The motion under Article 10, majority. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion for Article 9 passes by majority. Article 10 passes by majority. Motion for Article 11, please.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer $2,365.10 from free cash for unpaid bills from fiscal year 2017.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this, please? Vicki. Yes. Thank you.
Vicki Morrow, Pomeroy Meadow Road, Town Accountant. These are for some bills that didn't make it to my office in time for the cutoff for me to close my books. One of them would be for B&G Mechanical. We have a yearly service contract with them, and one of their bills somehow ended up on someone else's desk and didn't get to my office, so we want to be able to pay that particular bill since they are our service providers for our HVAC system in the town hall building. One of the other bills would be for some electrical work that was done in the town hall building that got missed before my deadline also. And then the last one would be a Eversource bill from the fire department that somehow got lost in the shuffle. And we need to make sure that we pay our bills, and we need to vote on last year's bills at town meeting.
Thank you. Anybody in opposition? Seeing none, anybody else want to speak? We're going to vote. We need 9/10. All those in favor of the motion under Article 11, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion passes unanimously, and it meets our 9/10 requirement. May I hear the motion for Article 12, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer $13,000 from the town administrative salary account to the town hall building expense account.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this, please?
Vicki Morrow, Pomeroy Meadow Road, Town Accountant. I make a motion to I move to amend the dollar amount to $12,000 as I'm reviewing the, when I originally put these numbers together, there were some charges that were charged to the town building account that should not have been there, which I have taken out. Yep.
We have a motion to amend.
Okay.
Do we have a second to amend? Okay, motion made and second on amendment to the motion. Vicki, you're back.
Okay, thanks, sorry. So anyway, my original calculations, I had not anticipated that this charge should be moved out of town hall building expenses, so we definitely don't need the entire $13,000. I would propose about $12,000. Do you want me to explain it? Okay.
So we're talking about the amendment.
We're
and then
talking
we're going to
about-
vote on the amendment, then we'll
Okay.
talk about the motion.
And then we'll talk
Anybody
about the
in
cost.
opposition to the amendment for making it 13 to 12,000? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment for making it 13 to 12, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. We have an amended motion. Who would like to continue talking about the amended motion?
So anyway, for the $12,000 would be for this past year, we had an issue with our HVAC system at the town hall. We did not previously understand the contract that we signed, or we didn't know the contract we signed with the current HVAC person didn't match apples to apples with the old one. The old contract we had with S&E, they were in control of the HVAC system. They had proprietary software that controlled all the rooms, and they could do it from a computer. When we signed our contract with BG Mechanical, they didn't, that was not in the contract that we signed. We were just signing a service agreement. They did not have proprietary controls software so that we can control our HVAC system in the summer and in the winter from, the computer. So we had to contract with them to pay for that service in order for us to get, pretty even keel as you can get in a fairly large, building for heat and HVAC. So that ate up a good chunk of the money that was set aside in the budget for this year. So currently, we still owe service contracts to B&G Mechanical for the rest of the service contract from this year, which is about $3,400. No, $4,452. We still owe, we have to pay for our water for each quarter. We have to pay for the residential security, which is now Hackworth, for each quarter. We have to pay for the trash that the transfer station picks up for the rest of the quarters. We have an additional bill from B&G for sort of hacking into that proprietary software. They had to spend an extra week doing that job so that we can have that HVAC system up and running, which is $3,400. We have to get our septic tank pumped at the end of the, in the springtime, which is another $500. So anyway,
thank you.
We need the $12,000 to spend to keep our building running, and unanticipated costs that could happen with, this particular building.
Thank you. Anyone want to speak in opposition? Anybody wants to speak on it? If not, we're going to vote on the amended motion. All those in favor of the motion under Article 12, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion for Article 12 passes by majority. Can I have a motion for Article 13, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer $148,246.50 from free cash to the Capital Stabilization Fund.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this? At the mic up there.
Which mic?
That one.
That one? Of course. Big mic. What was I thinking? Charlie Konecki, 146 Valley, Chair of the Select Board. This is basically housekeeping. We do this every year. Once we designate free cash, we split up free cash into different categories. You'll see a number of articles here, such as OPEB funding, capital expense, and also our general free cash operation for stabilization. This is just normal housekeeping.
Thank you. Anybody in opposition? Anybody else wants to speak? Seeing none, stay up there. Seeing none, we're going to vote. Motion under Article 13. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion for Article 13 passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for Article 14, please?
Can I use this microphone to make a motion?
Sure.
Okay. I move the town
Thought
vote.
you never ask.
Just want to make sure I'm doing this correctly, Robert. I move the town vote to transfer $42,356.10 from free cash to the other posted employment benefit account.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on it?
Again, this is housekeeping. We've been setting aside this because we're trying to build that account up. Every year we put some money aside, and it's designated by a formula the Select Board put together a number of years ago.
Thank you. Anybody in opposition? Anybody else would like to speak on this? Seeing none, we will vote. Motion under Article 14. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion for Article 14 passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for Article 15, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town to vote to transfer $127,068.30 from free cash to the operational stabilization account.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this?
Mr. Moderator, once again, this is general housekeeping where we set aside operational stabilization fund to try to build that account up. So that's basically what we call our rainy day account.
Thank you. Anybody in opposition? Anybody else would like to speak on it? Go right ahead.
Patrick Monahan, Pleasant Street. Do anything coming out of this account still have to come back before town meeting?
Anything that goes into this account has to go back to town meeting to be pulled out of it. Vicki, how much is in there right now with this added to it? The stabilization account. Operational stabilization.
So, this on? Yeah. I guess if we add this to operational stabilization, I have it subtracted here, 259. $386,408.33.
Every year we've been adding some money to this. Like I said, it's a rainy day account.
That answer your question? Good. Next, anyone? Anyone want to speak on this? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 15, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion for Article 15 passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for Article 16, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer $4,800 from free cash to the police department expense account for the purchase of high-velocity vests and Kevlar helmets.
Thank you. Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this?
Good evening. Michael Goyette, Police Chief. This article is for the protection of my officers. They respond to any type of active shooter call. They're going to be running to the active shooter to stop the threat. And I think to have this extra protection of the high velocity vests, and I'm not going to get into what our vest that we normally carry stop versus the high velocity vest. I think it kind of speaks for itself. But we owe it to them to be going towards, if they're going towards the shooter, to be able to have the protection. The Kevlar helmet speaks for itself also. Give them a little more protection with their head. You know, when you ask an officer to respond to a call like that, I just want to make sure they're well equipped.
Thank you. Anybody in opposition for this motion? Anybody would like to speak on this motion? Step right up.
Michael Rosenberg, 144 East Street, Finance Committee. The Finance Committee did vote to not recommend. We voted not to recommend with the caveat that we felt the funds should come from capital stabilization. There are items in this warrant that deplete the capital stabilization account. We would look to have these types of purchases, this one and I think another one upcoming, to come from capital and reduce some of our capital spending to prepare for the future, to prepare for next fiscal year. So we were not against the purchase of the items or the safety of the officers. We were against the fund that it was coming from. And you will hear that free cash can be used for any lawful purpose, but our reasoning was to save more money for the future, to still purchase them, but through a different account.
Thank you.
Jim Labrie, 66 Gun Road. I believe that the amount has to be over $5,000 in order for it to come from capital. So this is $4,800. Buy another vest. You want another vest? Is that you making a change?
Next. Thank you.
Tammy Walunas, 298 College Highway.
That's it.
Thank you.
Teamwork.
My question for you is, after getting these vests, what is any additional cost for training for using this? Or have they already been trained for this type of situation? Is
Chief?
there going to be an additional cost
Thank you.
later?
Chief, would you like to answer the question?
There will not be extra cost in training. And I wanted to point out, they're going to be one size fit all. They're fully adjustable, including the helmets. So everybody can wear them. They'd be in the line cars for the officers to be able to deploy them when they need to.
A little closer, Chief.
We train for different things already, and this would just be one more tool.
Thank you. I answer your question? Good. Anybody else? Great.
I'd just like to say that to protect our employees, that's not a lot of money. And if it's a good idea to take it from another fund, let's do that the next time. Let's get our employees protected today. If we can legally do it today, let's do it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, we're going to vote on Article 16. All those in favor of the motion? Oh, do not wait to be recognized. Stand right up to and go to that microphone.
George Zaborski, 10 Golden Circle, Southampton. 44 years I'm a sheriff in this town, all of Hampshire County. Let the police do their job. You got to protect them. I've rapped on over 10,000 doors. You never know who's behind the door. Please let them do their job. Thank you.
And 44 years included the way we used to run town meetings where people would raise their hand. We would go clockwise, counterclockwise, so thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, we're going to vote on the motion for Article 16. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed signify by saying nay. The motion for Article 16 passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for Article 17, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer $6,800 from the town administrator's salary account to the building commissioner's salary account to fund 4 additional hours per week for the building commissioner.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this?
Over the last couple of years, we've have a new building inspector. With that new building inspector, we've seen a lot of new activity with this inspector. The commissioner has basically expanded his activities in the sense of response and zoning and such, as you saw with the Middle Road issue with the old Sattler package store. We need to bring his salary up to what is current standards. Even what he is requesting is lowered in standards in surrounding communities of the same size. I see the finance of this as being sound. The income is more than what the expenses are. I see the reality of the amount of hours as being sound. One of the things that I do on the side is I work with many cities and towns and work with many building commissioners. I have a very thorough knowledge of what their responsibilities are. And I believe this town needs a full-time building inspector, paid as a full-time building inspector.
Thank you. Next.
Michael Rosenberg, 144 East Street, Finance Committee. The Finance Committee voted to not recommend this. I will preface this with it has nothing to do with the building inspector's ability or his work ethic or what he does. He does a great job. But what this article does, it takes $6,800 from the town administrator's salary line. It takes it from a fixed salary that is $80,000 this year and will be $80,000 next year. When you take $68,000 out of that and you put it in $6,800 out of that and you put it into the building inspector line item, that means you're going to have the original $80,000 town administrator salary to fund next year, along with the building commissioner's salary of this year plus $6,800. You've basically created an incremental cost for next year that you need to budget. Knowing what we know about next fiscal year revenues being less than expenses, we didn't feel it would be prudent to move funds and create future debts to pay that we don't know where the revenue is going to come from. I think as a rule, we've also been opposed to mid-year salary increases because you still have months to go for the year. You don't know if you can cover that increase for next fiscal year, and it creates a trap. It's unfortunate, but it's what we need to do as a town when you're preparing for some of these financial issues that we're about to face. Wait 3 months. If it looks better in July, then work on it at the annual town meeting. But addressing it in the middle of a year when we have an impending issue is not fiscally responsible.
Thank you. Next.
Ed Gwinner in Golden Circle. I see here it's funding for the building commissioner. Can somebody explain what the building commissioner is? And do we have one?
Charlie, you want to grab a mic there? Oh. Behind you. There you do.
We can try. John Martin, 106 Clark Street. He's a building commissioner. He not only does inspections, but he does compliance too. So he had to be certified as a building commissioner as well as an inspector. That was one of the qualifications that we had set him up for. When Mr. Quinlan got here 3 years ago, our general revenue from permits and the like was roughly $52,000. Now I guess it's trending at about $105,000, $110,000. So because he goes out there and does the compliance and the inspections, we've more than doubled the income that's there, and we expect that to continue. The Finance Committee has suggested that he roll back in some of his duties to cut back in his hours, but as a select board member, we're not going to tell the building commissioner what they need to do, and if they go buy something, or he goes out looking for issues that are out there. And he may find a homeowner building a garage, and he stops them because it's not in compliance with the building codes. If he got there 2 or 3 weeks later, that garage is up, and he's going to tell you to take it down. So he needs to be out there at the right time. Plus, he's bringing in much more money than we ever had before. This salary is going to be absorbed with new fees, we think, but he's bringing in twice the revenue that was before. So, and it goes into the general fund. So there's plenty of money that's being brought in. It's not a loss leader by any means.
Sir, did that answer your question? Sir, did that answer your question?
Well, partially, but I kind of disagree with the commissioner part. I think they have to do their
I
homework.
answered your question.
Yes.
Thank you.
As far as taking in double the money and you're paying out the same price, where does that extra money go?
Okay, right behind you, somebody answering the question.
Mr. Quinlan now is working on the average of 40 hours a week. We've talked to him many times, try to get him to cut back, but as he says, his job is to go out there and do the inspections and the compliance work, and he has a work ethic that's not going to allow him just to back off. So we're getting free inspections and everything now.
Okay, we're going to take somebody behind you. You've spoken twice, sir. We're going to take somebody who hasn't spoken behind you. Give them the mic. Thank you.
Janet Kane, 83 Glendale Road. I have 2 questions. Just the comment was we need a full-time inspector or commissioner. What is a typical department head hours for full-time in town?
Somebody want to answer that so we all can hear? Yeah, sure. As long as it's just the answer.
Typically, what we have is department heads that are working 40 hours a week, police chief, fire chief, town administrators, such of that nature. When you get down into the lower ends of the management, then we start looking at the 30-hour-a-week positions. The building inspector, given the fact that the trades are so active in this town, you need someone 5 days a week.
Thank you. Answer your question?
Yes. My second question is, what is the select board's plan to fund this position for next year?
I can only speak as one select board member, but the anticipated revenue that's coming out of the building department should more than offset the expenses of the necessity of having the building commissioners full-time.
Does that answer your question?
Well,
It's
Not
36
really,
hours, okay.
because
Okay, not really.
typically we've had that discussion with the folks from the health department as they raise their collections as well, and we've told them that you can't take the funds that you raise or the taxes that the assessors collect and to fund more positions in town. So I guess I'm not sure I agree with that explanation, but we'll see.
Your point is
come
taken,
May.
but it's just like the next article with the winter storm. When we retire that debt, we're going to free up another $10,000.
Thank you.
Dan Pellegrini. A couple things I wanted to point out. As Mr. Martin stated, the fees, the revenue has increased. It absolutely has, but all the fees have been doubled, if not tripled. So at the end of the day, it's not because of new building. It's because we've doubled and tripled the fees for applications and permits. Mr. Markle stated at a town meeting or a select board
No
meeting.
names, please.
All right.
Previous speaker.
The previous town administrator spoke.
Previous speaker.
Okay. Projected revenues were $185,000 from new building. That's what we projected this year. We're going to come in somewhere around 120. At the end of the day, we're issuing less building permits in town. We've tightened our regulations on putting subdivisions in and building houses in this town. Building is down. So I do not agree with what Mr. Martin said, that the fees are going to, and also Mr. Kanicki said that the fees are going to
You're done.
Okay.
No names, I asked you. That's the second warning.
Jim
Yes,
Labrie,
sir.
66 Gun Road. Now, I understand all this talk, and here's my view on it. I've been on the board for 2 years. He's been looking for an increase because he works a lot of extra hours, but he does not get compensated for it. So he keeps trying to get the cash. He's threatening going to another location. It's public information. Montague is currently advertising for a building inspector, which he is fully qualified for $70,000. Right now, he currently makes the low 50s. He has applied for the job. He is the finalist. They are going to offer them the job. It's not a threat. I mean, I'm just telling you, it takes a lot of money to qualify a building inspector. When we hired him, he wasn't approved. He had to take a state exam to be approved to take the test. Then it's 3 different tests he has to take. And then he has to move on to the next phase. I mean, there's a lot of work and a lot of money involved in training a building inspector. And when we get them built up to where they're licensed, they look for a pay that's comparable to other communities, so we lose them. And now we're going to have to hire another building inspector and go through the same, so we have to add all the training costs on time again. And I don't think it's that difficult. He said if we offer him the $6,800, he will be more than content and he will stay in this town, and I think that might be the way we should go.
That's hearsay. You can only quote what you're
I'm sorry.
thinking and you're feeling,
Okay.
not what
And,
somebody else may have said.
Yeah, I think.
True or not.
Yeah, so that's it.
Thank you.
So that's my take.
Gary Swanson, 72A East Street. Frankly, I think we ought to just bottom line this thing. $6,800 in order to keep a good professional who's working for us right now, who we've spent a great deal of money in training. We've just heard the last speaker go through all of this. We have a habit in our community of underpaying people, and then they go off and work for somebody else. Very simple. It's not hard to understand. It's just that simple. We come up with an extra $6,800. We keep the building inspector, commissioner, whatever he is, happy and in his office. We compensate him for work he's already doing anyway and not being paid for. We have no right, frankly. Here's, the guy's pulling in over $100,000. Let's just keep it simple. You pay him the extra $6,800. I'm firmly, totally in favor of this, rather than training somebody else and sending them down the road to Hatfield or whoever wants to hire them.
Thank you. Ma'am?
Liz Moulton, 115 Pleasant Street. I agree with both sides here. I understand that we need to pay our people more, we need to retain our employees, and we need to keep them in town. But I think the bigger picture here is that we need to look at how much money do we have to spend. You cannot just keep giving people what they want in order to keep them here. We need to increase revenue. We spend a lot of time with our budget every year to approve these positions in May, and in the middle of the year to say, oh yeah, by the way, we need to give them more money, I don't think is fiscally responsible. A teacher or the principal in the school cannot come here now and say, oh, by the way, we need an extra teacher. Can you fund them at $50,000? It doesn't work that way. We need to make do with what we have right now until the next budget and move forward from there.
Thank you. You've already spoken twice. Anybody else want to speak on the article? Everybody gets a chance to speak twice. You've been at the mic twice, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I've worked with the building commissioner for 14 months. I've probably worked with a dozen in my career. He's one of the best. One of the best. He is conscientious, he's hardworking, and he works more than 31 hours a week. There's a lot of issues that have been brought up here in support of this extra increment. 2 points. In the budget that the selectmen submitted last to the annual town meeting, there was an appropriation for 35 hours for the building commissioner. That budget was not agreed to. Some of you know the background to that, but nevertheless, the selectmen did propose to move the building commissioner to 35 hours. Secondly, and this hasn't been mentioned, if in fact we lose our building commissioner, and I don't think we're blowing smoke here. It's a tight market. If you are trained and certified, there's a marketplace out there. I know of 2 communities that are in the process of recruiting in our region, and I know that he's been talking. He is not threatening us, but clearly he wants to be paid for the hours that he works. And I think any certified person in mid-career wants to work full-time. If we lose the building commissioner, you're probably going to have to go to 35 hours to recruit a replacement. Because if you are in that position of being trained and certified, you want a full-time job. And so the marketplace is going to be very difficult for the town. And you probably will have to raise the salary anyway and raise the hours to 35 hours if, in fact, a change occurs. And I don't think this is just trying to threaten people. I think this is a reality of a marketplace and an individual who is very qualified and conscientious in his work, who wants to be paid for the hours that he works. And if the town is unable to do it, I think I have no doubt he'll look at his options.
Thank you. Seeing nobody who hasn't spoken before, we're going to vote. Sir, you've spoken twice.
I got one more question.
You've spoken twice,
you
sir.
Shut me up. You
It
shut
is
me up way
ruled-
too early.
Sir, second warning.
Oh.
I will not let anybody hold the meeting hostage. All those in favor of the motion under Article 17, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion for Article 17 passes by majority. May I hear a motion for Article 18, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer $55,624 from the free cash to the Halloween 1029-11 account to pay off the loan for the cleanup of the 2011 storm.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this?
Is that what I'm hearing? This is relatively easy. Remember the ice storm we had? Yeah, remember that? Well, we're still paying off that debt. We've been told by DOT it'd be kind of smart to pay off because it was a short-term loan. So here's the article to pay it off.
Anybody like to speak in opposition? Anybody else want to speak on the article, pro or con?
No, I'm not speaking in opposition. I think it's actually good that we pay this off and stop paying the debt. My question is, why didn't we get the state funding? What happened there?
When that all occurred, we got a 75% reimbursement for all damages that were incurred to the town and all expenses to the town. Note 75%. So there's 25%. That's the 25%.
That answer your question?
Oh, now it's going to expand. Here we go, Dan.
We got an expansion of the answer.
No, Vicky, go right ahead.
So we applied for a FEMA grant through MEMA in anticipation of potentially getting 75%, but it was a $51,925, I think, at the time, back in 2011. Well, no, this was 2012, actually, when we applied for it, and it was when the previous superintendent was here, but we weren't guaranteed that we would get those funds. We never got those funds. I chased after them. The new superintendent chased after them. We found out other communities got their money. We didn't get the money. So part of this is a piece of that, but part of this is our expense that we had to incur because we only got reimbursed the 75%.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak on this? Seeing none, we're going to vote. Motion for Article 18. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion for Article 18 passes unanimously. Mayor, motion for Article 19, please.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer $10,000 from free cash to the legal account to cover extraordinary and unanticipated legal costs during fiscal 2018.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this? A select board member is circled in my notes. Yeah. You can sit up there. Bob Markle's on deck.
Relatively simple. We've had a lot of legal activities in town with everything from lawsuits to, well, all kinds of legal stuff. And basically we didn't put enough money in when we budgeted it in the last town meeting. So we need to put some money back in there to continue for the end of the year.
Thank you. Anybody wants to speak in opposition? Anybody wants to speak?
John, you're not going to speak in opposition.
At all.
I want to ask a question, Charlie.
Ask me a question.
The microphone, please, sir. Sir?
I would like to know what the lawsuits are, all these lawsuits that we're getting. If somebody could just explain what the suits are all about.
Thank you.
Well, unlike Vicky, who has a list, I don't have a list, so I can only do this from memory. But there was a number of cases relative to open meeting law violations that were questioned. All those things trigger it. We were looking at land issues relative to, well, property issues that we need to get into. And then there's the general stuff that gets into being people file against the town. We give it to the insurance company, but town council reviews stuff. And then we get into town meeting. Town meeting has to be reviewed by town council. There's a lot of internal activity that goes on. There was a lot more than we anticipated. Even this stuff here, if you notice, you saw me stand up and talk to you about changing some of the articles at the last minute at the recommendation of town council. Well, that was the meter running for town council.
Thank you. That answer your question? Anybody would like to speak on this? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 19, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion passes unanimously. Mayor, motion for Article 20, please.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer $1,000 from free cash to the certification stipends account to compensate the treasurer collector for attaining state certification.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
Mr. Moderator, at the annual town meeting, an article was presented which would permit the town, under state statute, to provide a $1,000 stipend to any of our financial officials or the town clerk who go through a training program, schooling, extensive schooling, and who become state certified in the positions. At this point, our treasurer collector has become certified, is the only person at this point to become certified, and so this $1,000 stipend is in order.
Thank you. Anybody in opposition for this motion under Article 20? Anybody else want to speak on the article, on the motion? Seeing none, we're going to vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 20, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion for Article 20 passes unanimously. Mayor, a motion for 21, please.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer $56,375 from ambulance receipts reserved for appropriation to the EMS wage account and to transfer $5,833.31 from ambulance receipts reserved for appropriation to the fire building expense account.
Motion made. Here a second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this?
Yeah, John Workman, Fire Chief, 13 Belanger Road. For this article here, I really need to go back to 2013 when some of these decisions were made. In 2013, the town government at that time had worked with the fire service, and they determined that what they really wanted for the town was to have a higher level of fire service. In 2013, they basically had a basic level ambulance service, which a basic level is a basic EMT. You attain a basic level of EMT by taking about a semester level course to get there. What they wanted to do and what they look forward for the town was to go to an ALS service, which is a paramedic level service. The paramedic is basically a college degree, and that's the direction that they thought best for the town. And so they'd signed an agreement with the state to move forward with an ALS ambulance service. And in that agreement, under 105 CMR regulations of Massachusetts, it says that you need to have paramedic coverage in-house in 3 years after signing it. In October of 2013, I signed on with Southampton Fire Department, great group of folks. With that, at the time in 2013, the beginning, they had paramedics that were functioning in Southampton. We had maybe 7 to 8 trained, Mass Fire Academy trained firefighters. In 2018, where we stand today, we have 24 paramedics that are working for the town of Southampton. We have probably 34 Mass Fire Academy trained firefighters. We've really come a long way. In 2013, when I took the position, I started with the budget that they'd given me, worked with the parameters of the state, and with that, we've increased, the department has increased to those 24 paramedics and 34 Mass Fire Academy trained folks. Part of the problem and what this article speaks to is the fact that in 2016, when we were supposed to comply with state regulations, we didn't have the money to comply. And so we did some stopgap measures. We're continuing to do stopgap measures. Since I've been in Southampton, there's not been a significant increase to the budget for the fire department. And yet the fire department needs to meet state regulation. So what we've been doing is to take money wherever we can find it to try and put together to comply with state standards. In December, the state had come out, OEMS had come and given us a citation that basically they're threatening to pull the ambulance license unless we have paramedic coverage 24/7 that we provide, Southampton provides. Now this is tough because we're covering most of our calls. Granted, we're doing it with a basic ambulance at times, getting a paramedic from Easthampton or Westfield, which doesn't cost us a lot, and it's a good economic way to do it. But we can't continue this way because the state won't allow us to. If we could, we would stay right here. Unfortunately, the state wants us to have our own paramedics. When we've looked out to other communities as to some of the approximate costs, they've, for another community to provide paramedic coverage to Southampton, we're probably talking $900,000 on average, $1 million. We're trying to stop, we don't want to lose the license. If we lose our license, we're losing revenue. In order to not lose our license, in order to keep our paramedic level service going, we're looking to take money that has gone into our ambulance receipts, money that we've collected through the ambulance trips that we've taken people in town. It's all stopgap. We got some money at the beginning of the year because we can't take money from this account until it's in there. And even though I've brought this to the finance board and select board since I've been here, and we haven't addressed it, we've kicked this down the road, and now it's harder to kick down the road. We need to do something. With this amendment, the proposal is to take money from receipts from the ambulance account, increase the hours to 16 hours a day with 2 folks, one of them being a paramedic, so we can supply paramedic service to the town of Southampton. And then to comply with that last 24/7 requirement, we would further reduce costs by just getting a paramedic for 8 hours for the overnight shift. It's minimum. We're not paying any overtime. We're not paying any sick time. We're not paying any vacation time. We're just trying to provide the best service we know how to provide to the town of Southampton. The difference with the paramedic service is huge. If you have an event and there's a paramedic that comes to your aid, it's a better chance that you're going to come home and be fully functional in your home because of the aid that you got pre-hospital from somebody who's taken basically a college level course to give it to you than just having a basic ambulance service provide service.
Thank you.
Michael Rosenberg, 144 East Street, Finance Committee. The Finance Committee met this evening and voted not to recommend. The primary duty of a Finance Committee is to advise and make recommendations at town meetings on the budget, financial planning, and other areas of finance. We make recommendations, we do not make the decisions. That's what the town meeting is for. We are a research and advisory branch of your local government and help to keep the checks and balances and keep the public informed. With that said, we are in no way against public safety or services they provide. A statement like that is unfounded and frankly uninformed. We are for the successful operation of a public safety organization, just as we are for public works, for education, for inspection services, administrative services, etc. We are elected to take into consideration any and all departments regarding financial matters, appropriations, and to report on them. It is our charge to review the future repercussions of the decisions that are made today. As of right now, there is no revenue-generating mechanism in place to fund the increase in Article 21. The current revenues will not cover it. This, coupled with former articles and future articles, will create issues for next year. What this means is that a town or school-provided service, personnel position, or multiple would have to be reduced or eliminated to fund the longevity of this article, along with other articles in the future. With what we know now for next year's revenue and expenses, we cannot expect to fund departments at higher levels without reducing somewhere else in the budget. These are not easy decisions to make or conversations to have, but we have, as a finance committee, pushed for fair and equitable treatment of all departments, to look at the needs of the town as a whole and not just one department. Please keep in mind that by voting purely on what you read in this warrant would be doing a disservice to the other departments that we all rely on daily. It would be fiscally irresponsible of us, as duly elected Finance Committee, to not report this information and have it be part of today's discussion and decision. I would implore any and all proponents of this article that stand up this evening to speak to provide a revenue stream that can support the additional funding or advise the town on what services or personnel it can reduce or eliminate, because that is where we are. We can't just say that the revenue will cover it because it's been projected. It's not going to. This is a difficult decision, and we're in this spot because the conversations haven't been going on over the last 2 years. There haven't been community meetings to discuss what was recommended in the Carlson Group report. There is no 5-year plan projecting what this service is going to cost. There was no official RFP to other communities to help with the services. But we are here today, and this decision will affect budgets next year. It will affect other departments, and like I had mentioned, we feel it's wrong of us to recommend something that we know will have an adverse effect on departments going forward without a plan in place. If there's a plan and you show where the revenue's coming from and you show what services you'd like to cut, then fine. But making these decisions without all of the information and hoping 4 months down the road it changes, it's scary, you know, because it affects everyone. It affects all the services in town. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
John Martin, 106 Clark
A little
Street.
closer, John.
Ice cream cone, huh?
Yes.
John Martin, 106 Clark Street. Just a couple things I want to run by before we vote. We have 3 ways to go. If we don't get our license renewed, we're back to a basic level, or we can fund this and stay at the paramedic level. Or we also looked at, when we were looking at this a couple of years ago, how much would it cost us to farm out? And we went to, and I'm going to round off the numbers because of memory, we went out to a local town and said, if you took over, roughly how much would it cost us? And the cost was roughly $600,000. Don't quote me on anything. And we went to a private ambulance service and said roughly how much. That was in that, I think, $900,000 range that the chief was talking about. So it's not financially feasible to give it out to someone else. So the question boils down to, do we want to go back to a basic level, or do we want to have a coverage by our paramedics? And this funds the second shift so that we have 2 people on the second shift. One could be a paramedic, one could be an EMT, but it also puts a paramedic on the third shift. That's in-house, so that there's always somebody on the shift 24/7. And even though there's one paramedic on the third shift, that paramedic, when a call comes in, can get into that ambulance and go to the site immediately, and somebody else gets toned out and they meet them at the site, because the paramedic can't drive and administer care in the back. But the paramedic gets there and starts administering care. The police are also, I believe, basic level EMTs, so they get there first, so they help. So this will have 24/7 coverage, and as you know, if we have basic service, the revenues that we get from basic service are going to go down tremendously, because what happens is we have to pay other communities to come in and transport more complicated cases, or we have to meet them at the Easthampton line or Westville line and do a paramedic transfer, because we have to stop at the Easthampton line, for instance, have a paramedic from Easthampton come on our ambulance, or transfer the patient to their ambulance at a paramedic level and then go to the hospital. If you're having a heart attack or a stroke or something, who wants to get out of the ambulance and get transferred, or who wants to have a basic level, transport them from their home in? So although the Finance Committee has to look at finances, I agree 100%. Board of Selectmen recommends this unanimously. We have to look at the safety of the community along with the finances, and that's why we're recommending this unanimously, that it be passed, because we need a first-rate level ambulance service. Thank you.
Thank you.
Patrick on Pleasant Street. I'm kind of a numbers guy. I'm wondering right now how much is approximately in that account for receipts, and they've said that there's an anticipated revenue. Any ideas on what they have historical or anticipated?
Okay, Vicki, can you answer that?
Currently, we are at 71,000. We've collected 58,000 so far year to date, and we have 71,735.99 in the account currently, because what happens at the end of each fiscal year, the money that's not used is rolled over. If you look at some of the numbers that we've collected over the past years and the number of commitments that the Coastal Billing Company has sent us, it looks like we probably would collect about $180,000 to $200,000.
Does that answer your question? Okay. Thank you, Vicki.
Maureen Groden, Cheryl Lane. I just wanted to be clear that the staff that Chief Workman mentioned are on-call staff, that he's dramatically increased the number of personnel in the department, but they are on-call staff. So I didn't want people to think that they are a salaried staff. There is a plan, just so you know. The plan is to have 24/7 paramedic level service. That's our goal, and it's in the best interest of this town and everybody in this room to have that kind of service. If we have to have mutual aid, then we can't bill the ambulance to get the receipts to build up the fund. So we do have a plan, and the plan is to have paramedic level service and to get licensed, which the state is holding until we continue to show that we're going in the direction of 24/7 service.
Thank you.
Ben Hogan, 73 Gilbert Road. Wrote this down so I don't just mumble.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm mumbling. Yeah, I wrote this down so I don't mumble. If this fails tonight, we lose our paramedic license in this town. I've been in EMS for 13 years. I'm a paramedic currently in a neighboring city. I mean, that's the fact. We'll lose our license tonight, and that puts people's lives at risk. I've been on calls that time has been a factor, and there's poor outcomes, i.e. someone dies because we weren't there quick enough, care wasn't rendered fast enough, or it was just too long to get there. And then I've also been on the other side where the response time is 4 minutes, and someone who was dead when we showed up walked out of the hospital 3 days ago. So voting against this is being okay with putting your loved ones, your families, and your neighbors at risk for not coming home. So you need to support this department. You need to support the paramedics. I know them. A lot of them are my mentors for over 20 years. So these are great guys. They know what they're doing. Let them do their job and support them.
Thank you. Seeing nobody else, we're going to vote. We're going to vote on the motion for Article 21. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Did I hear a nay? Did I? Yes? Okay. The motion on Article 21 passes by majority. Do I hear a motion for Article 22, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer $6,346 from ambulance receipts reserved for appropriations to the fire chief's salary account to cover negotiated salaries for the fire chief's service as EMS director.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this? Doing great, Charlie.
This works better. Basically, the town of Southampton was in negotiations with the fire chief for over a year ago. And we worked out this contract. Part of the contract was that he was to move into town. He has moved into town, taken in residency in town. He's met all of our requirements, but the town did not fund this entirely at town meeting, so we never met our obligation. This is basically to correct that error and move that contract forward.
Thank you.
Oh, a little clarity.
Sorry?
A little clarity. This EMS is emergency medical services. Do not get it confused with EMD, emergency managers. Okay?
Thank you. Anyone who want to speak in opposition?
Michael Rosenberg, 144 East Street, Finance Committee. We met this evening and voted to not recommend this article. We voted to not recommend, similar to the reasons in Article 21 and similar to the reasons for the previous article raising the building commissioner's salary. It is a mid-year increase. It's an increase that we're unsure of if we can fund next year. So, thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to speak on this?
Jean-Pierre Crevier, 39 Crooked Ledge Road. I'd just like to say, if we've negotiated wages with somebody, the people that had the authority to negotiated it, we've got an obligation to pay it. It's as simple as that.
Thank you.
Aaron Kuchar, 49 Coleman Road. I just want to point out there seems to be a pattern here of coming back to town all the time for things that are not in the budget. We have a budget for a reason, and we can't ask the school to stay in budget and other people to stay in budget and then keep coming back to take money to go against things that are not in the budget. And also, question on what happens if we said no to this. What happens to the, I mean, you said it's a contract that we have to pay on. What happens if we say no?
Somebody want to answer that question? Charlie, you're at the mic.
That was a legal question that I cannot answer because I'm not an attorney, but I do look at it from face value that we're reneging on a contract that we put together. And we do see other departments coming back for money, school departments coming back for boiler, coming back for carpeting. Everybody comes back at one time or another for stuff.
Does that answer your question? Aaron, does that answer your question? You have to be at the mic. Give her the mic, please.
Why is it in front of us if we don't know the answer if we say no to it? Like, we should know what the consequence, yes or no. So if we say no to this, what is the answer? I mean, I'm just asking. And by the way, the school thing was a capital improvement, but we'll talk about that later.
John Martin.
Hi, John Martin, 106 Clark Street. Will the chief walk away? No. He's a professional. The Board of Selectmen has the right to negotiate contracts with department heads. We negotiated it last year in good faith after long negotiations. If you remember at the last town meeting, Finance Committee brought it up and stripped it away from the budget. They did that on the floor by a vote. A prior speaker got up here and says, well, you know, why do we pay in mid-year? If there was a contract with the school and we didn't pay after we negotiated it, would that be fair? If there was any other contract that you have that was negotiated legally in proper manner and we didn't pay it, would that be fair? Of course not. So because we can't take the money out of the budget, we have to come to town meeting, the fire chief's salary is up in the air. It was properly, legally negotiated by the select board. We need to honor it.
Thank you.
Gary Swanson, 72A East Street. The previous speaker said everything I was going to say. Frankly, we got a commitment. We've got a responsibility to meet that commitment. Our Board of Selectmen that we elect to do these things on our behalf is taking care of it. Everybody is satisfied whatever they had to do. And frankly, I'm strongly in favor of passing this thing and meeting our commitments.
Thank you.
I would just like to say what would probably happen. Donald Trump would probably be bragging about
All
how we
right,
do
this
business
isn't
on
where we're going. Thank you. I didn't hear that, but uncalled for. We're going to vote on Article 22. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion for Article 22 passes by majority. Can I hear a motion for Article 23, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer $15,000 from free cash to the Select Board expenses account to fund the purchase of a parcel of land at 215 College Highway.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Would like to speak on this.
Mr. Moderator, the Board of Selectmen became aware of the fact that this property would be for sale to the town. This is about 2/10 of an acre. It's not a huge tract of land. It's right next to our old town hall / police station. Part of the issues that came before the select board was the highway department concerns that they had no place to plow snow. Their habits have been to plow the snow up onto Mr. Goyette's fence and knock it down. So the police chief was kind of concerned over that, so that was an issue. Another issue was the fact that when we were originally looking at these buildings and properties, we realized that the parking lot's kind of small there, so we need to look at expanding that if we're going to use that building in the future for whatever use we use it for. The third thing was, and the Board of Health is aware of this. The septic system is in question on that building. So we did some soil work to see if there was a possibility of expanding a septic system into this piece of parcel, and it appears that's likely. So this money would be well spent to enhance that property of the town and give us some potential use down the road.
Thank you. Anyone want to speak in opposition?
Carl Diener, County Road. I just have one question. When this was originally brought up, I believe the dollar amount was $10,000. How come it's now 15?
All right, somebody want to address that?
You want me to say I get my cut? No. Basically, it's $10,000 for the purchase of the property. It's about $2,500 for legal expenses, and we incorporated $2,500 to hire an engineer to do a septic design for that building.
That answer your question? Yes. Whoops. I'll do it. I've seen this movie.
John Warren from 230 College Highway. I have the unique position of being on both the Historic Commission and also on the Public Safety Complex Building Committee. From both standpoints, from where I stand,
A little closer, Mr. Warren, just a little closer to the mic.
the purchase of this property is a huge investment. The old town hall is one of the town's assets, historic assets. It's been severely neglected, and now we're beginning to take a look at what we can do to repurpose it and to turn it into a productive resource. Having that property that we can control where we put the next septic system and that sort of thing is a really valuable benefit for a very modest price. And also, with the current situation on the selecting a site for the public safety complex that we are proposing to build, we certainly want to, if we choose to use the old town hall for part of that complex, that again, having that property would be very, very beneficial. So I think it's a very small investment, which will be extremely useful
Thank you.
further down the road.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing nobody else, we're going to vote on the motion for Article 23. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion for Article 23 passes by majority. May I hear a motion for Article 24, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer $5,020 from free cash to fund the purchase of a new video dash camera to replace an existing camera that is no longer functional.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this?
Mike Wyatt, Police Chief. Excuse me. So this is a video camera that is at least 8 years old. Old technology. It does not work any longer. It was cutting out on us. The audio was cutting out. The video was cutting out. So what I just want to do is replace that video camera to continue to have transparency, to protect both the officer and the citizen, to have it just the video there for everyone to be able to use. We use it in court, and we have also used it when there's been some complaints, and we can review the video to see if those complaints are legitimate. So it's just a great tool since the inception of it many years ago of putting cameras in our cars. It's just been it's worked out fantastic for us and the community. So I'm just looking to replace one camera.
Thank you, Chief. We want to speak in opposition.
Michael Rosenberg, 144 East Street Finance Committee. Once again, similar to the Kevlar vest, the Finance Committee voted to not recommend, but the recommendation was that funds should come from capital stabilization.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak on this? Seeing none, we're going to vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 24, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion for Article 24 passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for Article 25, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer $1,400 from the town administrator's salary account to the select board expense account to pay the remaining balance for services by the Collins Institute during the search for a new town administrator.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this? Thank you, Vicki.
Vicki Morrow, Pomeroy Meadow Road. This $1,400 is additional expenses in the contract we signed with the Collins Institute, so we could hire a new town administrator, Ed, who's here, to run the background checks on our candidates, and also for the travel of their employee to come here and help us with the interviews.
Thank you. Anyone in opposition? Anyone else would like to speak on this?
Mr. Moderator, I've been involved in a lot of hiring in my career. I want to tell you that this approach that we took with the Collins Center was excellent. Everything just streamlined and moved forward. As you can tell, we now have a new town administrator.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we're going to vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 25, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion for Article 25 passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for Article 26, please?
Mr. Moderator, may I use this microphone?
Yes.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to transfer $4,900 from the free cash to the police department expense account for the purchase of a portable radar speed limit sign.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this?
Mike Goyette, Police Chief. We have a speed trailer that no longer functions. It was purchased in 2005. I believe the Lions Club also helped us with that. But it no longer is functioning, and we get quite a few requests for radar on many streets in town for complaints of speeding. So we do put officers out there as much as we can. But we have found over the years that the speed trailer that we had also worked because the way I look at it is most people are not purposely speeding. The car.
You heard it here first.
They build the cars. They build the cars now. They're much quieter, smoother, and you're driving along. You see a sign, the radar sign, as we have a new one by the school here that's permanent. And it's a reality check. It's, and you realize that you might be going a little too fast. So in studies, these traffic radar signs have shown that it really does make a difference. People get that check, when they see the sign. The radar trailer was very cumbersome. It was great. It was a great tool. However, newer technology, it's kind of like a big LED TV screen that you can mount onto any signpost. So instead of the winter months of us not being able to deploy a speed trailer, this can go where snowbanks are because we could not park that trailer during the winter months in the snowbanks. So this also has technology to give us data. Fastest car, it's not going to tell us the plate number, but it'll give us the fastest speed during a time that we set, say over 6 hours. Fastest speed, lowest speed, average speed, and how many cars traveled that road. So it will definitely help us with traffic studies of streets with complaints. And then that'll tell us, okay, we should put an officer out there in that area to address it, because there are cars that are, exceeding the speed limit quite often. So I just ask that, we'd like to purchase that to help with the speeding complaints.
Thank you, Chief.
Jim Palermo, 68 Glendale Road. I'm a big fan of the police department. I think we're very lucky to have the top quality police department we have. But there are just so many things that this town needs. I don't know if we really need a speed trailer. It may be a deterrent for speeding. I don't know. But just overall, going over so many of these articles, it would seem to me that the town would be well served if parties who have to negotiate contracts would confer with the finance department and sort of make sure that things are in the
Merits
budget.
or lack thereof of this particular motion.
Well,
Merits or
Mr.
lack
Moderator,
thereof of-
I respectfully disagree because...
Then I ask you to sit down.
Okay.
Anybody else would like to speak on this? Seeing none, we're going to vote. All those in favor of the motion under Article 26, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion for Article 26 passes by majority. Do I hear a motion for Article 27, please? I'm sorry. Yeah, 27. I heard all this ruckus, so. Virginia Ahart, could you please come up? You want to count? Virginia, could you take a seat? I need 7 of you to stand up to oppose the moderator's ruling. Okay, we're going to have a hand vote. Counters, please. That's legal. Town meeting time requires 7 to ask to divide the question and ask for a count. So all those in favor of the motion under Article 26, please signify by raising your cards. And keep them up until the counters are to the back of the room. In the future, keep them up. In the future, anyone who has a point of order can just stand up and scream out point of order and interrupt the speaker in the future. Yes?
28.
Repeat?
28.
28.
33.
33. All those opposed to this motion, please signify by raising your cards.
$22.
$16.
16?
16.
16? $61 to 38, the ayes have it. But I applaud you for challenging the moderator. I'm a human being. You have the right to do that. You do it anytime you feel comfortable, and I applaud you for that. Thank you. Virginia, where'd she go? Well, okay. This is going to be Article 27, Community Preservation Funding.
Virginia Ahart, 27 Fulmer Road.
A little closer, Virginia, you can turn around and face them.
Ooh.
Yep. Them, the audience.
Okay, try this again. Move that the town vote to transfer up to $10,000 from Community Preservation Surcharges Historical Preservation Account to fund replacement of the front doors at Town Hall.
Motion made. Do I hear a second? Motion made and seconded. Proceed.
Okay, I'm just going to mention that
A little closer to the mic.
that the building is a historical building, and it falls under historical preservation. Selectman Charlie Konecki will speak to this.
Speak to this? You want to talk about drafty doors? The double doors in front of the town hall that face College Highway were never redone when the building was refurbished. You can literally put your fingers in between those two doors. People have tried foam and everything else to seal them up. The reality of it is we need to take and recondition those doors. The hope is to get this allocation, then to have the town administrator put out a request for proposals to try to get somebody in there to replace those doors, but to make them appear to be what they were originally.
Thank you. Anyone want to speak in opposition? Anybody want to speak on this other than?
Tom Livingston.
I can't hear you. You really got to treat
Tom Livingston, Pomeroy Meadow Road. How do we know that $10,000 is enough?
There is a question. Charlie heard it.
The question was, how do we know 10,000 is enough? Frankly, we don't know. We've tried many different contractors to try to get quotes, and we ended up basically getting no one to respond to us. So we took our best guess, figured that that was a good estimate. What we're going to do is put a request for proposals out there and see what kind of quotes come back if we actually offer having money available to hire somebody.
Thank you. Does that answer your question? Thank you. Anybody else want to speak on this? Charlie, want to help?
Yeah. No, I don't.
Oh, you're good? Okay, sorry. Thank you. We're going to vote on the motion for Article 27. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion for Article 27 passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for Article 28, please?
Move that the town vote to transfer up to $40,000 in community preservation surcharges undesignated account to the Conservation Commission to fund a new roof for the Zipka barn.
Motion made. Do I hear a second? Motion made and seconded. Please speak on this.
The Zipka barn is known as the Red Barn as you're traveling down Route 10. It is, especially now that it has a coat of paint on it, it is a very iconic New England red barn. And it is a part of our history in the community. Part of community preservation's charge is to preserve the old historic buildings of the town to keep the town's character. And frankly, I can't think of anything in this town that celebrates our rural past as that barn does. We did have a person come in and evaluate the barn. And it's not in fall-down condition at this point, but it needs a roof. And it needs a roof for several reasons. One, to start the real preservation. But secondly, it needs a new roof because who would be on the hook if part of that roof flew off, and it could, into College Highway and struck a car or created an accident.
Thank you. Anybody in opposition? Or anybody want to speak?
Michael Rosenberg, 144 East Street, Southampton Finance Committee. We voted to not recommend spending the $40,000 on the Zipta barn roof. We have 3 occupied historic buildings in town, being the old town hall, the new town hall, and the fire department. At least 2 of those could use $40,000 in maintenance today. And those
Merits or lack thereof of this particular building for the roof.
I'm sorry?
Your merits or lack thereof. You're quoting figures for other buildings, and that's not fair.
Spending $40,000 on a building which is leased to a private entity that the public is not able
That
to
is out of the
use.
scope of the article. The Conservation Commission has jurisdiction
says
for the
barn is
SIPTA
under
property
lease.
and the barn.
It says right in the article the barn
It
is
does,
under
but we're
lease.
not going into contracts, we're not going into usage. They have responsibility for the barn. So we're talking about the merits or lack thereof of a roof.
Patrick Munn in Pleasant Street. One straight back to it is how much is in the CPC funds now?
I didn't hear the, was that a question?
The amount inside the community preservation.
How much do we have for community preservation, Virginia? Could you answer that?
Sort of. I can't really tell you the exact amounts. Vicki, okay. Do the undesignated.
Yeah, the undesignated currently has $970,645.85. And that doesn't include any monies that we are currently going to collect for CPA funds for this year. But it does include the state match grant so far.
And the, okay, this would come from the undesignated, so it's over 900,000.
I answer your question. Okay, anybody else?
Marla Hank, Gilbert Road Conservation Commission. The report that Virginia had referenced had said,
Gotta be closer, really like ice cream cone.
okay, the building structure at present is essentially sound but in need of some immediate repairs or it will very quickly deteriorate. There are some serious roof leaks and wooden structures quickly decay when dark spaces are water soaked. We have estimates very rough of how much it would cost to fix it as well as how much it would cost to tear it down because we have to do one or the other lest we have pieces blowing into the road. It would cost approximately for the demolition and removal about $20,000. And even though people certainly might want some of the old beams, nobody wants the concrete. You have to take it away. We also have estimates of how much it would fix, and depending on who does it, because we have to pay prevailing wages, it could go anywhere from 20 to 35, which is why we had asked for 40, because you never know, things come up. Of course, we'd be happy to get a donation of labor, but we can't hold our breath on that while the roof is blowing in the wind. The select board has, in the prior year, had the fire department up there re-nailing down flapping metal plates, and they've hired someone to go and nail them down, but the next strong wind, they blow back up again. So we need to do something with it for the safety.
Thank you.
Bob Koza, 181 College Highway, Chairman of the Historical Commission and a member of the CPC. I have to comment that if we're considering taking down a historic building, that the demolition delay bylaw would necessarily be reviewed by the Historic Commission, and that may not be a possibility.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, we're going to vote on the motion for Article 28. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. I hear a nay? Motion passes by majority. There is an article on your paper. There is a recommendation by the Select Board or Finance Committee. There's a summary and there's a motion. I've never been in favor of the summary that is under the article. That is from Town Hall. It doesn't necessarily stay in, I believe, at times, the scope of the article. May I hear a motion for Article 29, please?
Move that the town vote up to $30,000 from community preservation surcharges undesignated account to the Select Board expenses account to fund a feasibility study and preliminary design for the restoration of the police station Old Town Hall.
Motion made. Do I have a second? Motion made and seconded. You like to address this?
I can. There was a feasibility study done, maybe, I don't know, at the time we moved to the new town hall. We would be building on, this would be building on that feasibility study, and it would be looking at the things needed. And right now, we've let the old town hall go to the point where even though the police are there and they are using it, it certainly is not the most efficient building for them. The dispatch area especially, I understand, is very cold because the windows need repair. We don't know if it's going to, if we are going to be able to do a safety complex. But the police are there, and they certainly need the building made comfortable for them at this point, and as long as they are there. And there are other uses, but we don't know what those might be. A feasibility study will help us determine what needs to be done now to preserve the building and give us some suggestions about perhaps future use.
Thank you. Anybody want to speak in opposition of this? Anybody want to speak on it? Right, sir.
Yes, Charlie, I am speaking in opposition. Gary Swanson, East Street. It was 2011. I chaired the committee. It was called a Building Needs Committee. At the time, I chaired the committee that did not only did the renovation on the old school, which is now our town hall, but at the behest of the Select Board, we spent $20,000 of our tax money on the study which was earlier referred to. Now, references are made to that study, but I haven't heard anybody say what the bottom line was of the study, and I want to give it to you right now. At that time, which was about 2011, it would cost approximately $2 million to bring that old building up to the standards required to use it as a public building. Now that's $2 million 6-7 years ago. It's probably 2.5, whatever now. This $30,000 is largely, in my opinion, a repeat of what we did then. Before we spend more money on this building, I think first of all we need to recognize the fact that we're talking about some very major capital outlay here in order to preserve and upgrade this building. This is at a time when we're seriously talking about something in the order of $10 or $12 million on a safety complex.
That doesn't apply. That's out of the scope.
All right, it's beyond the scope, but the bottom line is we've got to give some serious consideration as to whether or not we're throwing good money after bad. I'm against it.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak on this? Seeing
One last word. It is in the master plan to look, and this plan was done, as many of you know, with a lot of input from this community, meetings, discussions, and one of the things that is targeted is to do something to reuse the old town hall. And I might tell you, yes, it's taxpayers' money, but half of that $20,000 that was spent is state money because it was from community preservation. And please remember.
Thank you.
That.
Anybody else? Seeing none, we're going to vote on the motion for Article. Oh, sorry, Charlie?
No, I'm fine. Go ahead.
You good? We're going to vote on the motion for Article 29. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The ayes have it. Motion under 29 passes by majority. May I hear a motion for Article 30, please?
Move that the town vote to transfer $3,718.98 from community preservation surcharges undesignated account to the accountant to pay legal fees associated with the purchase of property known as the Cook County Road project.
Motion made. Do I hear a second? Motion made and seconded.
What happened is that our legal counsel had to work a little more than our estimate of her time might have been during this. There were more details than had been taken into account when we created a budget, and so it ran over.
Thank you. Anybody in opposition? Anybody want to speak on this? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 30, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion for Article 30 passes unanimously. May I hear a motion for Article 31, please?
Almost forgot that one. Whoops. Move that the town vote to transfer $12,000 in community preservation surcharges historical preservation account to the Historical Commission as partial funding for a continuing program to straighten and clean Revolutionary and Civil War grave markers.
Motion made. Do I hear a second? Motion made and seconded.
This request for $12,000 is a matching fund. We have applied, as a matter of fact, today. The State Commission, Veterans Commission, is meeting to determine whether they will allow us a like amount. This is our third restoration of Revolutionary and Civil War monuments at the National Register or Cemetery. This will probably be the last one. It is a restoration, straightening, and cleaning of Civil War and Revolutionary War grave markers.
Thank you. Anybody in opposition? Anybody else want to speak on this? We'll vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 31, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion passes for Article 31 unanimously. Mayor, an article or motion for Article 32, please.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer $15,000 from the Operational Stabilization Fund to the Norris School capital budget to fund replacement of the carpeting in the school library.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Who would like to speak on this?
This is a request for the completion of, or the replacement of the library carpet that was set. We were cited for having a safety hazard, and it has to be done. So hopefully you'll approve it.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Capital Committee reviewed this and approved it.
Thank you.
Patty Mari, 205 Pomeroy Meadow Road, and the library tech teacher here at the school. I spend a lot of time in that room. What's happened over the last 20 years or so is that the carpet itself is lifting and buckling. So on a humid day, you'll go in and it looks kind of like the waves on an ocean. I'm afraid one of the kids is going to trip, hit their head, or a staff member, and I really feel like we need to replace this. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll vote on the motion for Article 32. Needs a 2/3 majority. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion passes unanimously, meeting our 2/3 requirement. May I hear a motion for Article 33, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer $45,000 from capital stabilization fund to the Norris capital budget to reimburse the school for emergency repairs to one of the heating system boilers.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this?
Mr. Moderator, this was an emergency of the town. It was brought in front of Capital Committee. Capital Committee approved it. The work has already been done because of, as you remember, 2 weeks ago, the temperatures got below 0. So we're asking for ratification by the town.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, we'll vote. The motion for Article 33, it needs 2/3. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion for Article 33 passes unanimously and meets our 2/3 requirement. Do I hear a motion for Article 34, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer $35,000 from the Capital Stabilization Fund to the Fire Department building account for the purchase of a modular trailer unit to be used as sleeping quarters for fire personnel.
Second, please.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Who would like to speak on this?
Mr. Moderator, this was brought to the Capital Stabilization Committee, which I sit on. This was recommended by the committee. It's very obvious, given the situation that we have at the fire station and the fact that people are sleeping in recliners in a back room, that we need to expand this a little bit. This is a temporary patch. We all acknowledge the fact that we have to move forward with some kind of public safety complex, but at least for the next couple of years, this will at least address some of that need.
Thank you.
John Workman, Fire Chief, Belanger Road. We have people who are spending the night tonight at the fire station sleeping in recliners just so that the ambulance will make it out the door in adverse conditions. And this has been going on for a year anyway. We just want a healthy spot for these folks to spend the night.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak on this?
Mr. Moderator, Tammy Walunas, 298 College Highway.
A little closer, right to the ice cream cone.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I am unaware of some of the process in this, so I would like some help on that. My first question is, what does the fire department budget cover the cost to heat and cool this trailer? How big is this trailer? I keep hearing things that it's a bedroom, but now I've heard that there's a kitchenette in there and there's showers and a bathroom, and so that's my first question.
Okay, let's get that answered.
John Workman, Fire Chief. No, this is a bare bones. This is a used trailer. It's actually would cost us more in 2 years if we rented one. It's basically 2 bedrooms in a common area. There's a heating unit and an air conditioner in it, but there's no plumbing whatsoever. I'm really looking to put something next to the station so we can get people over to the station as needed to use the bathroom that's there. I don't want to spend extra money on something that's just temporary. We did explore over at Town Hall that basement, but there's 1 room, there's 2 rooms in the basement. One is used for storage and completely full. The other one is half full with storage stuff. The problem with that basement area is that the windows aren't compliant for it to be sleeping area because they're 7 feet above grade and wouldn't allow for an emergency exit.
Thank you. Second question. Gonna be a long one.
Does second and third shift get a different pay rate? If we're only going to have one paramedic on there, why do we need a trailer out there?
The option is for this person to sleep in a recliner in a 150-year-old building with trucks that just have carbon emissions that are just dangerous to health. Firefighters face enough problems just going into burning structures, dealing with the environments that we do. To ask a firefighter to spend the night in a recliner 365 days a year, ideally, if costs associated that we can reduce it. Like tonight, I've got 2 basics that'll be spending the night there. If there's money in the budget, we try and cover as best we can nighttime coverage, ideally with 2, but we're budgeted for 1, and we need a place for them to sleep besides a recliner.
My last question is, with our town being on such this tight budget, why are we paying people to be sleeping on the job? If I was working at a job second or third shift, I'd be fired. I know you say you have, I know there are people there tonight. That is great. Are they being paid while they're there waiting for their calls?
Chief will answer your question.
Yes, we pay the firefighters to be there to run an ambulance so that it's out the door. It's adverse conditions. If they crash their car on the way down, you don't get an ambulance out. So whoever needed the ambulance plus one of our people in our department is now at risk just trying to get to the station. So if we pay them to sleep, then we may pay them to sleep. But if we get one call, it more than covers their salary for that night. It's made it safer for our firefighters, which is really what's important here, and it's made it safer for our community because we're getting that ambulance out the door.
Can I answer your question? Great.
Vicki Morrow, Pomeroy Meadow Road. Just a point of clarification of reference, those recliners that are in the fire station were bought by the Southampton Firefighters Association, which is not town money. So we don't, as a town, own those 2 recliners. So we need some place for them to go.
Thank you.
Ben Hogan, 73 Gilbert Road. The building they're in right now is saturated with exhaust from the diesel, and after you go to a fire, there's 80,000 chemicals given off at a house fire, and then all their gear and equipment saturated in that. So while they're sleeping or working in those back quarters, they're being exposed to carcinogens. And right now, firefighters are 250 times more likely to get cancer. 1 out of 3 of our firefighters will get cancer. Those are all proven statistics. And 61% of the leading cause of death of firefighters is cancer. So allowing them to work in that building is being okay with those statistics. So if we want to change those numbers to help them, give them a proper place and a safe place to rest.
Thank you.
Patrick Eline, 6 Gene Circle. I'm a firefighter paramedic. I've been a paramedic for 28 years, and I can tell you that we're not a service industry. So on that third shift, hey, I'm sorry we're not producing anything. We're not there to produce. We're there to protect. All right? We're there when you need us. So whether or not I'm got my eyes closed or open should make a difference when they make it to your house in 5 minutes as opposed to 25 minutes.
Thank you. We're going to vote. Since nobody else is there to speak, we're going to vote on the motion for Article 34. All in favor? 2/3 majority. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. We need a count. 2/3 majority. We need a count. Come. Attorney General's rules are If it isn't unanimous and it requires 2/3, they need an exact number, not the moderator's guess at how many may or may not have said nay. Eyes up. All in favor? Keep them up. Thank you.
$37.
37.
$51.
51. All those opposed, please raise your cards. The motion for Article 34 passes 88 to 2, meeting your 2/3 requirement. Stay in your seats, please. We can go either way. We can go home and adjourn to tomorrow night, or we can take a vote and continue. We have 3 more articles, 2/3. It may be a little lengthy. It's your meeting. All in favor of continuing? Opposed? We will continue. Thank you. Motion for Article 35, please. And those who need to leave, thank you. Thank you so much for sticking through. You guys have been great. Motion for Article 35.
Article 35. First, I want to apologize to our highway superintendent about the comment about plowing snow in the parking lot. It wasn't meant as any offense to anybody, so please don't take it that way. You said what?
Okay.
Okay.
Motion.
Motion. I move that the town vote to transfer $62,000 from the capital stabilization fund to the highway department expense account to fund the purchase of a new lawnmower.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and seconded. Who would like to speak on this?
Randall Kemp, Fulmer Road, Highway Superintendent. This is for the replacement of our 2005 Groundmaster. It's a hydrostatic field mower with an 11-foot cutting deck. It is used to mow the athletic fields at Conant Park, Labrie Field, here at the school, Lions Club Pavilion, Town Well, Church Hill, Transfer Station, Town Hall, and the library. In the past year, we've put about $3,000 in parts with it, into it, and my mechanic tells me there are several other wear items that are likely to have to be replaced due to impending failure.
Thank you. Anybody want to speak in opposition? All right. Anybody want to speak on the article, the motion? Seeing nobody in opposition.
I just have a question. I would like to know what we're getting for $62,000 for
Fair
a
question.
lawnmower.
Randall?
So I don't know if you've seen the gang mower we currently have. It's an exact replacement for that unit. It's got 2 folding hydrostatic mowing decks that go down for a total of 11 feet of cutting width. It's necessary for cutting the big fields. Our other 2 mowers have a 5-foot deck and a 4-foot deck. When we cut with them, we can't keep up.
Answer your question? Thank you. Anybody else have any questions, any comments? Seeing none, we're going to vote. All those in 2/3 majority. All those in favor of motion on Article 35, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Counters, please. All those in favor, please raise your voting cards. Repeat.
31.
Thank you.
38.
38. All those opposed, please raise your cards. Oh, please put your, those opposed, please raise your cards.
3.
And you're in agreement? 3, okay.
2.
Thank you. Motion on Article 35 passes 69 to 5. It meets a 2/3 majority requirement. May I hear a motion for Article 36, please?
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to authorize the Select Board, acting through the Water Commission, to acquire by purchase, gift, eminent domain, or otherwise, on such terms and conditions as the Select Board shall determine, a permanent easement containing 40,000 square feet, more or less, on a parcel of land located in Southampton and Easthampton, commonly known as 10 College Highway, being Assessor's Map 14, Lot 2 in Southampton, and Assessor's Map 164, Lot 11 in Easthampton. Said easement as approximately shown on a sketch plan, as may be amended on file with the town clerk, for the purpose of siting, construction, operating and maintaining a water pump station, and appurtenances related thereto, as well as access rights to said easement, said property to be acquired for water supply protection and water distribution purposes pursuant to General Law, Chapter 40, subsection 39, 41, and 15B, and further to authorize the Select Board to enter into all agreements and take all related actions necessary or appropriate to carry out said acquisition and other acts authorized herein upon such terms and conditions as the Select Board may deem appropriate.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Who would like to speak on this, please?
Matt Christie, Middle Road Water Commission. The Water Commission is seeking to acquire an easement to site a emergency supply pumping station. The reason we've chosen this location is due to negotiations with the City of Easthampton, as well as the landowners at this particular site.
A little closer, Matt.
This site is hydraulically the best site in town for us to site this permanent interconnection with the City of Easthampton. We've been discussing with them for several months now, almost a year actually, about this specific location. We have an MOU in hand that says they're going to give us so much water a day as long as we can put this pump station into their standards and state standards. So what we're looking for now is the authorization to acquire the easement to site the pump station.
Thank you. Anyone in opposition for this motion? Anyone else would like to speak on this? Seeing none, we'll vote. Needs 2/3. All those in favor of the motion under Article 36, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion passes unanimously, meeting our 2/3 requirement. Do I hear a motion for Article 37, please?
The longest one, so bear with me, please.
We'll take straws and work backwards for you to have it.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate, transfer, borrow, otherwise provide the sum of $200,000 for the purpose of financing the certain water pollution abatement facilities project, including without limitation the repair, replacement, and/or update of septic systems pursuant to agreements between the Board of Health, the residential property owners, including without limitation all costs thereof as defined by Section 1 of Chapter 29C of the General Laws, as most recently amended by 1998, Chapter 78, that to meet this appropriation, the Treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Select Board, is authorized to borrow the sum of $200,000 and issue bonds or notes, therefore, under General Law, Chapter 111, Section 127B and a half, and/or Chapter 29C of the General Laws, as most recently amended by State 1998, Chapter 78. That project and financing costs shall be repaid by the property owners in accordance with those agreements. But such bonds or notes shall be general obligations of the town, that the Treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Select Board, is authorized to borrow all or a portion of such amount from the Massachusetts Water Pollution Abatement Trust, established pursuant to Chapter 29C, as most recently amended by State 1998, Chapter 78, and in connection therewith to enter into a loan agreement and/or security agreement with the trust, and otherwise to contract with the Trust and Department of Environmental Protection with respect to such loan and for any federal or state aid available for the project or for the financing thereof, and that the Board of Select Board, Board of Public Works, or other appropriate local body or official is authorized to enter into a project regulatory agreement with the Department of Environmental Protection to expend all funds available for the project.
Motion made. Do we have a second?
Second.
Who would like to speak? What are you doing over there? Who would like to speak on this, please?
Back in 1998, I worked with the Commonwealth to establish this program. This is basically housekeeping for the town of Southampton. This program's been in existence for a long time. Basically, someone needs to have their septic system repaired, replaced, whatever, and they can't borrow money for whatever reason. They can borrow money through the town with this program. They get their septic system repaired. It's set up as a betterment tax relative to their property tax to pay off the debt. The money flows through the town, and the town keeps, I believe, 3% interest in this town, 5% in Southampton. Southampton went for the high number. Most everybody else went for 3%. So now it's 2 or 5.
Variable.
Okay, but anyways, long story short, this is just housekeeping to make sure that they're authorized to keep borrowing this over.
Thank you. Anybody in opposition? Anybody want to speak on it? Seeing none, we're going to vote. The motion, Article 37, needs 2/3. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion passes unanimously, meets our 2/3 requirement. Our business is done. You've been a great audience. Thank you for your civic duty. May I have a motion to dissolve, please?
Motion.
Second. All in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Safe home. This special town meeting is hereby dissolved. And thank you, Mr. Crevier, for that great... It's not here.